evening on the train bound for nowhere. I met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us, and he began to speak. He said, "Son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces and knowing what their cards were by the way they held their eyes. So if you don't mind me saying, I can see your outer faces. For a taste of your whiskey, I give you some advice." So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. And then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light. And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. He said, "If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold it, know when to fold it, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done." Every gambler knows that the secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away and knowing what to keep. 'Cause every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser, and the best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. And when he finished speaking, he turned back toward the window, crushed out a cigarette, faded off to sleep. And somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even. But in his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got to know when to hold it, know when to fold it, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money while sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done. You got to know when to hold it. Yeah. On a warm summer's evening, on the train bound for nowhere, I met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us, and he began to speak. He said, "Son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces and knowing what their cards were."
You'd have called me, baby, just to see you'd be late again. I thought you would care about me, said you were my best friend. Maybe you think I can't live without you. Maybe that's why you treat me so wrong. I'm not obligated to you. I don't want it this way. Don't be staring through those brown eyes. You must have seen that this was coming. When I tried to talk to you, you turned away. You say you wanna dance. You don't ever want to argue. You wanna love the night away. Girl, I won't stay. You say you wanna dance. You don't wanna talk it over. You wanna love the night away. Girl, I won't stay. It's not that I don't really love you. Girl, I just don't love your style. All this time you've been playing with my nothing to you. Maybe you see through the heart in me. Maybe all that you're thinking is wrong. Maybe my love ain't so strong. Don't be staring through those brown eyes. You must have seen that this was coming. 'Cause when I tried to talk to you, you turned away.
Natural beauty, you know. Yeah. No, I never been someone shy until I seen your eyes. Still I had to try.
I was a fool for you, a fool for you.
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. Yes, indeed, of course, it's the Sunday edition of the Corridor Transformation. We would have had some false starts in the recent past. Very, very, very recent indeed. Of course, it was due to technical issues, of course, and circumstances beyond my control, or indeed those of us who are committed to making this program available to you on a nightly basis. But I want to tell you, of course, what we are certain of is that we cannot be a fool for anybody. If it is that the situation in Trinidad and Tobago is one that requires the attention of the people in terms of remedial action, and to have remedial action, it means that there was something that was untoward. There was something that was unsatisfactory. There was something that was, in our case, diabolical, wicked, evil, and of course, Luciferian. And so, of course, to tell a person to defy the rule of survival, because there is only one rule for survival. One rule for survival. The first law of survival is what? Self-preservation. Let us not waste time. The first law of survival is self-preservation. And Trinidad and Tobago has been called upon individually, collectively, as well as institutionally, as well as far as those who administer the various independent institutions in this country, to save Trinidad and Tobago. Because, of course, as I said, the first rule of survival is self-preservation, and we must preserve Trinidad and Tobago to be all what it can be and must be. And we have, of course, the past to also make comparison, and then we know, of course, what is being purported to be government and governance in this country, led by, of course, a group of individuals assembled by Dr. Rowley, who clearly has, of course, morphed or metamorphosized the PNM into a criminal enterprise. We must, of course, take note and take the necessary remedial action. It is against that background that, of course, love has been created. L-O-V-E, love. And Laventille, you must be part of the 39 seats in Trinidad that must go to the UNC, and any configuration or any association or any combination or any coalition, as of course may emerge as a consequence of the imperative to repair Trinidad and Tobago. Let us not waste time. And therefore, nobody can be a fool for you. You can only be a fool for yourself if you don't understand that. And don't bother with the what I consider to be the trolls and those persons who are going to engage as far as the PNM's propaganda machine is concerned. They will be on steroids, they will be in overdrive, and then we know that they are desperate, and therefore they will make all kinds of mistakes. Even that and all, being on steroids is a mistake. So we are not going to be perturbed about that. Yes, indeed. So a pleasant good night once again. If you just joined us, don't forget we are heading for 40,000. 40,000 is the target. I tell you, tell friends, tell families, tell, of course, foes, tell daughter, tell son, tell aunt, tell nanny or auntie, and of course we can go on and on down the family tree. But the fact of the matter is that we have a duty and responsibility, and you're going to get some information tonight that will let you know that Kamala Persad-Bissessar is once again correct. Those who have assembled as a coalition of interests have, of course, not only interests, but have demonstrated that they have the capacity and the ability. Not only that, that they have a history. Not all in the same degree, not all in the same intensity, not all in the same expansiveness, but of course, experience nonetheless. But what is common is that all of us have a duty and responsibility to Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore our patriotism cannot be questioned. That's the point I want to make here. So therefore, people, tonight you will hear about some of the achievements, whether directly or indirectly, of love. And of course, I want to tell you from the beginning, love is not a new kid on the block, as I said in the initial, of course, should I say, encounter with the media, when of course the concept of and the acceptance thereof of the UNC's invitation to join force in order, of course, to rid Trinidad and Tobago of this, not just albatross, but this poison, this toxicity, this evil, this diabolical called the PNM. And let me tell you this, if it wasn't the PNM, there would have been no Rowley, no Manning, and no, of course, the other members of cabinet. You doubted me? Well, let me tell you something. If Laventille did not stay solid in the PNM's camp in 1986, PNM would have been a has-been. It would have been history. But it is Laventille that saved the PNM. And what the PNM has done since that, beginning with Manning, and of course into this, what I consider to be Satan manifest, called Keith Christopher Rowley. And they have treated Laventille with scourge, with scorn, with a degree of disrespect, and of course, dismissiveness, unprecedented, in my view, within even the concept of being ungrateful. Yeah, because there was no need to be so harsh and brutal to Laventille by the PNM, and just to appreciate the fact that their existence is as a consequence of the tenaciousness and the loyalty of Laventille is mind-boggling, as it is, of course, a very, what I consider to be acutely puzzling. It is enigmatic that such a situation could happen, and that Laventilles, of course, seem to be absorbers for punishment, brutality, and of course perfidiousness, meaning that not just disappointment, but betrayal. And that is what the PNM has delivered to Laventille. We are going to tell you something that you will never believe, Laventille in particular, but other parts of the country, as we of course pursue the inevitable course of engaging in a general elections in 2025. They will be reluctant. They will want, of course, to put all kind of teething mechanisms in place. The PNM I'm talking about. Rowley could never, of course, deal with these matters fairly and with a level playing field. He always wants a unfair advantage. In other words, to orchestrate a victory and then, of course, come in our faces. And whilst, of course, even in such circumstances, the victories has been very slim, very attenuated. They then, of course, get on as though they get a massive mandate to manage the affairs of the country, and then they begin the process of brutalizing, whether it be by, of course, excessive taxes, whether it be, of course, by policies and programs that are not just draconian by way of their conduct, but also criminal, and of course betrays. And therefore one must also conclude that they are persons who are fit for what Rowley called the gallows. Yes, fit for the gallows. Why? Because it was Rowley who said that in times past, when a person betrays his country, he is sent to the gallows and he is beheaded. That's what Rowley say. I only quoting what he say. And therefore, if and consistent with what his definition is of betrayal of a people, of their country, then the entire cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago should have been gone or designated candidates for the gallows. Gallows, yes, because they have betrayed us. Betrayed in every respect, whether it be economic, whether it's our expectations, whether it be in the area of agriculture, whether in the area of community and social development, whether it be sports, whether it be youths, whether it be in the ministry of the Attorney General, whether it be in the office of the Prime Minister, whether it be, of course, a crime, national security, whether it be education, whether it be areas that one would have expected would have been a little more what I consider to be sensitive to, and of course consistent with, of course, the amelioration of the country. And I'm talking about the over 50 state enterprises that would have been created over the years, whether it be, of course, NIPDEC, whether it be NEDCO, whether it be NIDCO, whether it be CLIPDECO, whether it be the Agricultural Development Bank, and we can go on and on, whether it be SBDC, all of them have failed Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, the government, the central, what I consider to be nucleus of this disaster, of this debacle, of this destruction, must be eliminated from the socio-economic and psycho-cultural, and therefore the governance of Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And I want you to
know
that whatever you do and wherever you go, remember someone loves you.
And this government has turned love into hate, because it's the most hated administration, the most hated prime minister, and the most, of course, hated group of individuals ever to, of course, traverse the offices or hold high offices in this country. A pleasant good. Let me just get this one. A pleasant good night. Welcome. Let me just take this one. Just a minute. Let me make sure that you are here. Yes. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
One of the things that the PNM has done well, and listen to me, and I'm using well in quotes, every state enterprise that they have established, this is one purpose, is to populate it with the voter bank. They have not populated with meritocracy at all. That is why they are failing. You know, we have to go back into history now. think it was a contractor by Chinley got all of those things. The first thing he did, he awarded scholarship to party hacks to come back as woodwork, industrial, economics and things. And what he did, he removed a whole village in Diamond Vale and sent them a partner. And he built houses. 99% of those houses were given to teachers, etc., party hacks of the PNM. And that is what we are facing today. So the direct consequence of the PNM policy, the mismanagement, has caused us to be here today. A couple of issues, they have not resolved the 3 billion missing. And I believe they don't want to do it because the chips will fall in their back pocket. Look, for example, Caribbean Airlines. I think a week ago, the small man, the short man, did went and said they made an operating profit of about 12 million. Today, in the front page, they have not done their audited financial statements for the last 9 years. So how can an intelligent short man go onto the paper and postulate that they make a profit? How do we know it's real profit or it's mama guy? The fact that they haven't validated the audit statement, anything can happen. The only person could tell us that is Jayanti Ramdas, the Auditor General. The other issue, Petroleum Holding Company. Remember they break up Petrotrin into Paria.
Yes, and then you have, of course, this holding company, yes.
Right.
Where his lawyer is the chairman.
You're right. You know they
Yes.
haven't. The GSC for 2 weeks ago, this fella, Kwame, he said he's having trouble. They are having trouble for financial statement from 2019. So for 5 years they are hiding things.
Michael Kwamina, his lawyer, he put there.
Yeah,
and of
I
course
don't
we will
have to
make
put
the
it.
nexus. Go
I
ahead,
don't want
yes.
to put your thing, so I using all kind of names.
Yeah, I hear you, but I am going to tell the people what the names are. He put his personal lawyer, Michael
Yeah.
Kwamina, after the decision to close down Petrotrin, and after his name, Rowley, was called in the fake oil matter. Go ahead.
Right. And they haven't been able to let financial audits. So how we as taxpayers know in whose back pocket the money gone? Why they don't want to tell us that before the election? We want to know where the money gone. Look, your partner going to spend 50 million, the whole big party, farewell party up in CARICOM. And he coming back with another thing. Something for terrorists.
Yes, crime is now appellated,
Yeah,
is now
yeah,
given
people
the
who have
pseudonym,
Yeah,
terrorist act. After he
Yeah,
just
so-
told us with $3 million, for $3 million hosting CARICOM leaders here, he told us that it is, of course, a public health phenomenon. Now
And
it
the-
is a terrorist act. These people and them need... Anyhow, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, the only thing is them have a mental issue. What kind of, so all them hunters, so all them fellas who have the FUL, if they shoot somebody who tried to jump the wall, they go say they're terrorists?
Yeah, that's what they're trying to tell us now. Just as how a person who point a gun at you and they discharge the bullet, all you need to do is to find the nearest drugstore, the nearest pharmacy, and ask them for antidote or a tablet to prevent you from dying. But go ahead. That's how ridiculous it has come now.
Yeah, and it's so dotish. You're making all these laws and you have a failed police service. 10% or less than 10. I see some statistics in the newspaper, but all the crimes in the last 5 or 6 years is less than 1 or 2% of people who they have prosecuted. So all these laws are just fooling people. If you don't have a good, intelligent police force, it wouldn't work. So you're just wasting time. You're populating all the law books, and you're recruiting people who doesn't have the intelligence to read the laws and understand what they are. Look at these people, the ACP and the VCP and all of them. before the course because they didn't know the law for promotion, and it is in the police act. So these people look like they have to go back and do FA, and I hear the correlate now, they say FA too hard for people. Boy, like we going backwards now, you know. FA.
Because you raise the appropriate term there, the institutionalization of mediocrity, not meritocracy, mediocrity. Go ahead, my friend.
The first thing Van Winkle, the Garcia fella, did was remove the continuous assessment component of ACA. That was too hard for them because some of the people couldn't understand the curricula
right.
to dispense it to the students. Now they're saying this, some of the mathematics or the arithmetic into the essay is equivalent to CXC. But they have to understand if you're going into foreman, there must be a seamless transfer. So a person in fifth standard must be able to do the basic groundwork in Form 1. You can't start him back from ground zero. So this is a backward, bundles is backward, you know.
Yeah, and it is based on, of course, nepotism, cronyism, only because you are considered because you are loyal to an amorphous, a criminal enterprise called the PNM. And you have criminals populating it at the leadership level. And that is a dangerous development and the bane of the Trinidad and Tobago's advancement. That is why we are so damn backward. We are retrogressing rather than progressing. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, and we have a police service is making no headway in doing nothing.
Yeah, well, of course, it has literally collapsed. Clearly, if your promotional mechanism is based on favoritism and friend, which is clear, and ignores, of course, the rules that are there according to the judge, Frank C. Prasad, we are living, of course, in a failed state.
Right, and you have to understand the leadership is the blind leading the blind because most of those recruits don't understand they don't have the basic comprehension and numerics.
Yes.
That is why they don't charge people because
the other people who are calling, of course, just hold on. Mr. Diego Martin is completing his presentation now.
I will round up. And look at what in SOE we have a triple murder in Arima last night.
I will not be surprised because there were murders, of course, I think Friday as well and Thursday.
Yeah, last night we had a triple murder
in an SOE. One wonders if there's an SOE.
Close to the four-person who got shot recently about 6 months ago. I'm going to get somebody else.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, of course. Very good. We will comment a little later. A pleasant good night to Ms. Santa Cruz, our external correspondent. Long time no hear from in a more
Lennox.
Yeah, in a more amiable setting. Go ahead.
Good night to you and to everybody out there, Lennox. You know we have been having a lot of problems with the internet.
Yes. Thank God,
yes,
tenacity and prayer will solve all things. Yes.
It's not from want of trying, it's not from want of trying, you know, but tonight I see you're coming across very, very clear.
Beautiful.
But Lennox, let me tell you something, it have people without shame like PNMites. It's either the Lekoto Jambi eat the shame or Kobo or some canal kongs eat the shame. They have no shame, Lennox. No shame whatsoever. Look at the state of the country, Lennox. We have the Auditor General cannot account for $3.5 billion. The Privy Council asked why Imbut is not being investigated. But you have a PNMite on your chat here tonight, Patricia Reed, coming to ask you if you coming to talk nonsense for the people tonight. Coming to ask you if you feeling comfortable with David Lee in the opposition and you talking about Rowley. But I want to tell her, if you comfortable with Paris witness tampering, paying Vincent Nelson $10.something million, right? To lie, a witness statement to lie against Alan Ramlogan and them. You have Paris in a cabinet that commit bubble with the motor car. Lennox, you can probably remind them after I don't talk
Of
about
course,
the
I
motor
certainly
car,
will. I
right?
will not miss this opportunity. Go ahead.
Yeah, you have foster comments with alleged land grabbing, right? Going up again, and 14 million in venture capital cannot be accounted for. You have Camille with her money hiding in her handbag, close to 200,000 in cash and check, and lying about it, that she checked it from one account to put in next account, and she was playing checkers or chess, whatever you want to call it, with it. And I could go on and on, you know.
Of
You
course.
have Rowley. You have Rowley lying to the integrity, among other things, right? And because the integrity commission have no teeth, they couldn't bite his ass. Excuse my language, right? And I could go on and on. You know, you have
Of course you can.
What the man named the Attorney General.
Yes, Limo.
Perjured himself in a Miami court.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with him saying down there?
Yeah.
And let me go after this army man now. You have this army man recusing himself over 200 times to make his brother a banking billionaire, right? And his father a multi-millionaire. And you not no shame to come here to ask if we comfortable with David Lee. We know what went on there. Ask Rohan Senator who he sold his car to. Ask them. All you don't know about them things, we will remind all you. This is what we are here for. And if you think Lennox and the rest of us talking nonsense, go your way. Nobody invited you. The door is open. Feel free to leave. Don't let it hit you on your backside on the way out. Don't let it hit you. The next one I want to deal with is that rotten gut lying lunatic Nicole Rowley. Hey, let me tell you something, Lennox. These CARICOM leaders, these loafers, have no shame. They come down here under the pretext of a crime symposium that it was what? A mental illness.
Yeah, it was
Now
a public health
illness?
phenomenon. Yeah, a public health phenomenon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they come here, but they feel we stupid. They come here to campaign for Lowry for the local government election. Let me take a sip of coffee, Lennox.
Of course, and failed. Let me add to it one time while she taking a sip of coffee. And failed.
Yeah.
The UNC beat the tail in the local government elections campaign. But go ahead.
Yeah, Lennox, they come to campaign for him. Oh, he's a good man. And here they boasted about he's a good man. Lennox, the man was the head of security. He was chair of the region, right? He was chair of the region. And this man, this rotten, lazy, blank man, he didn't know, Lennox, he didn't know that 500,000 vaccines were in the region. It was not until Mia Motley sent vaccines for us that they knew it had vaccines in the Caribbean. Imagine this man lied. I think Mia Motley glad that he gone because she had to sell her soul for that man because of the Brent Thomas issue. Rowley caused his CARICOM counterparts on them to send their souls for him. You remember, Lennox, when they were here the last time, he wanted to put them as part of the procurement legislature, and it wasn't for the opposition. He would have get away with it. You want to come and take our money, take our privileges and give it to them? No, Lennox, it don't work so. And they talk about he will be missed. Who will miss him? Who will miss him? Certainly not me, Lennox. That man have to pay. He have to punish for what he doing to this country. And Lennox, who want to sit down and cuss me after, go right ahead, I could cuss back, right? And for the wickedness that he did to this country. I want to know, she talking about David Lee, right? How she feeling comfortable that this man who don't deserve a cent going home with $87,000 as a pension? And she family, I sure she mother them and even get a cent pension. But you want to know what we comfortable with? Listen to me. If you comfortable with the corruption in the PNM, you go right ahead. Don't come and tell me what to do. Don't come and judge us. Because when you see you pointing one finger at the UNC, look and see how much pointing back at you. Lennox, I thought that we had nothing to talk about tonight after so long I didn't get to talk to you. But you see how afterward, and I want to thank her. I want to thank Patricia Reed for giving me something to talk about. I want to thank her. And I wanted to come every night here and listen to what Lennox had to say. You might learn something because we know all your PNM and crayfish belong to the crayfish posse. All it is just swallow and then regurgitate all what you hear in Rowley saying. All it don't take the time and investigate, check out nothing, know what Rowley says, the Bible truth. That is why sooner or later we mightn't get justice here, but God justice is the best justice that will deal with Keith Rowley and all of them PNMIs. So run Patricia Reed, bring everybody that you want to bring, and you will get it live and direct on the chat. Lennox, thanks a lot and have a good night.
Yes,
Take care.
same to you. And I want to invite, of course, it appears that that is a regular, so I want to say, call your other friends, or call your family, or call even your enemies, to, of course, look at and to, of course, assimilate, or should I say, inculcate the offerings of the corridor transformation on a nightly basis. But let me start, because I thought that Miss Santa Cruz, who of course is external correspondent for the corridor transformation, I think she was a bit generous. Imagine what she has said there, scathing as it is. She was generous. Let me start before, of course, I take the next call, to start by saying that your leader is a rapist and a pedophile. Let me repeat, your leader, Keith Christopher Rowley, is a rapist and a pedophile. Let me start there. And therefore, from that basis alone, he is disqualified to be even considered, not just to be Prime Minister, but to be spoken of by me on this program. And I dare say, I'm sure that you don't like a rapist. So you too should wash your mouth with probably disinfect or vinegar or something like that for trying to defend that scum. And that, of course, what I consider to be beast in human form, a rapist and a pedophile. We will start. I ain't finished yet, but let's go to the lines. What's happening here? Sorry about that. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Yes, this will be a lovely Sunday night. A pleasant good night.
Yes, Dr. Lennox. Good night again, man.
Yes, man.
Yeah, well, I call you just now. I come a little late, but one of your callers called and tell about a triple murder.
Yes.
Yeah, that happened up Guanapo Heights. You know, remember that?
But are you surprised? Because is PNM still in government, you know? Rowley's still Rowley, Chinese man, still in office. Is when the UNC comes in, then you will be surprised if there is a triple murder. But from the time they are wrong, there is a nexus between the PNM and killings in this country over the years. Every time they are in office, there is an exponential increase in murders. And worse yet, the detection rate also falls. And of course, even if when they detect, the prosecution or the conviction rate is even lower. So we know.
The murder toll going to 56.
Yes. Go ahead. There are several people calling, so you have to do quick. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So that will take it to 56. Plus a little boy got shot to him.
All right. I'm not aware, so I'm thankful for your information and, of course, sharing it with us on the corridor.
Yeah. So a little boy got shot with the tree.
Yes. Okay. You see, all kinds of things happening under this administration.
Yeah, all right, so good night.
Yeah, good night to you. Let me just get Mr. Grandy to come in here immediately. A pleasant good night, Mr. Grandy.
Well, we got a little cut off there, but
yes.
Yeah. You get any boys who was sent for you, though?
No boy. I just came back from a mission. I have to be on the hills these days because there are certain developments that are taking place that all of you will be, of course, very, very pleased, except, of course, those who would want to defend the indefensible. I'm talking about a leader that is a rapist and a pedophile that people gravitate to and come on this program and have the audacity and the temerity to tell or to try to suggest that I mustn't talk about a rapist and a pedophile in the highest executive office in the country. I'm talking about the office of Prime Minister, Keith Christopher Rowley. Hold on your tail. Hold on your tail. And young people, only better understand that kind of tragedy, that kind of devastation by way of the mere fact that he is a rapist and a pedophile is a contradiction to the moral and ethical standards that we learned home, in schools, in church, and even in the blasted prisons. President, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, the whole idea about this office people just talk about it. I just listen to that every time people just say respect the office. I wonder if the office does work by itself. If you just put the office up there and the office is the office and the office doing everything. You see, when people talking about the office, the prime minister is just a name. But it has somebody who does become the prime minister. And is according to the status of that person, the office will become good or bad, positive or negative. You understand? So the office don't work by itself. That you have to respect the office. Because right now, I don't respect our president. Because I know the president's supposed to be an independent office. And it was compromised by putting somebody out of the belly at the PNM and making them president. So then I can respect that office because that office is a biased office. That's the way I will see. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I don't really go through that office and office. But what I'm going to say is that to see, I don't know if these charism leaders is people who line and some of them must be glad really leaving. That they're hogging him up, even Ofan Ali and all. And Mayor Motley and all them people and then hogging up Rowdy and saying he do so good. Like they maybe don't watch Trinidad to know what happened in Trinidad then. Yeah? I cannot understand that, but what I would say, I seen this thing really is not something that we had to take lightly. You might have to ask Barbara Brook that. Because this thing looking like evil stuck in this land. Because I hear on the news there where they killed 3 people up in Gonapo.
Yes, I just got that as well from the previous, 2 previous callers. Let me pay that way. I don't want to say previous 2, but 2 previous callers.
Yeah. So I shocked to hear that because that's an area have a lot of Negro people to it. This Gonapo, Heights of Gonapo.
Okay.
Right, a lot of Negro people up inside it and living under terrible condition. I am telling you that because I know that area.
Okay.
Right, the condition where they live under not nice. Do you understand? And to see that happening there, I sure it's somebody with some plywood house. They shoot down there because most of them houses are up in the back there, in them all of them, in little plywood house and thing,
Okay.
Do you understand? So not to say when a real developed area, these kind of murder taking place there where they shooting this amount of people and they make a last time what did they kill it? About 4 or 5 did they kill up in the heights of Colombo with the children, remember that?
Yeah. I mean, and then you remember this Andre Barrett, there she met her last day or last breath, I should say.
You see? So these are not really developed areas. That's what I'm looking at now. Mm-hmm. So why these things supposed to be happening in these kind of areas?
We have plenty callers coming in there, so we need to be as compendious as possible, short as possible.
Yes. So one thing I go down and say, this is evil. This is evil we're dealing with on this land.
Yes.
And we have to pray. All of us have to pray. We just can't say yellow is the code and then let God walk in front and we behind it.
Yes.
We have to do that.
Thank you very much.
Good night to you too.
Okay then, bye-bye. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, of course. President, good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Forgive me for coming in back again, Lennox. But
you have to be short, yeah? You have to be short because a lot of people are coming in. But go ahead.
I want to piggyback on your opening statement of the man-animalistic behavior.
Yeah, his bestiality propensity. But go ahead.
Right. But there's another important thing. You remember Carnival time, he coming for the last hurrah?
Yes.
Remember what the Muslim brethren, a fella who was the mayor of San Fernando at that time,
Yes.
he made the arrangement.
Yes.
We're going to be in Ramadan from the 1st of March.
Yeah, after to try to soothe the Muslim community after claiming that there was a terrorist attack imminent
Right.
around that carnival time, and of course he slept. He slept in the people's
In the mosque. In the
yeah,
mosque.
mosque. I mean, and that is what the Lord does to you to show that you really and truly has committed bigotry. And there are other examples of that, even in the against the Baptist community, when of course he raised a hymn, somebody touch him, and I say maybe Manning was slap him. Somebody touch him what? Yeah, you know what I mean, yes. And he was blighted after that.
I hope the Muslim community and that Muslim minister of, I think his local government, agriculture.
Yeah,
now,
he is agriculture still, yes,
condone.
yes.
Doesn't
Fake, only pretense, only theatrics, and in an attempt, of course, to hoodwink and gaslight the population to voting for them. We must tell it as it is, and it's clear that it's Kamala Prasad Bisesa. Yellow is the code, and Kamala
Right.
Prasad Bisesa and the UNC and whatever configuration must be accorded to the 9
And
seats in Trinidad.
I hope it's not a Bazodi, the name of the mass band, that he did all his nasty whining down, his whining politics at that point in time.
I hear you, my friend. All right, we have to go. Yes. Let me just get to this call. Yes, the people, you'll have to be a bit. Oh boy. A pleasant good night. Yes, a pleasant good night. Go ahead.
Good night. It's a short 1 minute.
Yes, very short because we have people just calling one after the next.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I was watching a video of the president of Guyana, how he's eating his local food with his hand and everything. And you know what he said? He said he is promoting tourism and our local dishes and everything. When is our tourism minister is going to do all that? When is he going to eat
Wait.
food?
We have one. We have a tourism minister because all I see is that when the champagne and when it's of course light events. I've only seen him eating and knocking glasses. That's all I see.
I don't eating with knife and fork and thing. I saw this man eating with his finger, eating with his local dishes with the cooking again.
And then regale us, or should I say, disrespect us with false information about tourism improvement in Tobago, tourism improvement in Trinidad, and so on and so forth. It appears that they have a propensity for government by Mama Guy. That is what they are about. Government by Mama Guy.
I think the PNM government, to be honest with you, they don't know what tourism is all about. They think tourism is come and talk, and the tourism
Yeah, and spend money, 100 and something million in Carnival, and
Exactly.
you assume you can't account for what was the cost benefit analysis because you don't have a record as to what actually would have been income as opposed to expenditure. You don't have that. Just as of course as the national finance ministry's accounting system. So they're missing $3 billion and they're telling us that it was spent, but they can't account for the spending, or it was received, but they can't track the paper trail as to where it came from and where it went. I mean, it's bizarre.
One more thing is I want to tell you. I wonder who in the tourism board, whoever, can tell us how many new visitors who never come for Carnival coming down to Trinidad after the Carnival. If they can tell us that, because I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah, Carnival is always what I consider to be a niche. It has always been, of course, an attraction, and that is because the police seem to be over-engaged around Carnival time, so people feel a little more secure to ignore the advisories against Trinidad and Tobago from coming. But we saw those ships when Carnival was not an issue. We saw that those ships, when the SOE was in fact announced, that the ship owners, those pleasure boats, they told their patrons, don't come off the boat. There's a state of emergency there.
The visitors there is a recycling visitors. They always go. I am talking about new visitors that come down for carnival. If the government could give us a tally of how much new people come for the carnival after the carnival.
I hear you.
But it's only a recycle people because my friend them go all here, the same people that go. I will announce later.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Let's go straight to the line. Professor, good night. Welcome to the corridor. You have to do as quick as possible. Be as quick as possible. We have a lot of people who is wanting to get on. Go ahead. Caller, go ahead. Caller, Mr. Faizabad, go ahead. Mr. Faizabad? 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 All right, well, we have to cut him off. All right, yes, indeed. Mr. Faizabad, you can call back. Yes, indeed. But of course, Mr. Cruz raised a very important point that I wanted also to address. Because, of course, she said that the troller, of course, one of the agents of disinformation and misinformation and total ignorance. Ignorant here meaning uninformed. So we need to inform them. We need to disabuse that. Because the notion is, as Rowley and they would say, how come David Lee is in the parliament under, of course, a criminal charge of gaining some benefit from selling a vehicle too early and therefore, of course, infringing some regulatory arrangement for his benefit. Well, I want to say first and foremost, apart from the fact that, of course, when you're talking about generically defending or attacking the PNM, that you cannot have a rapist and a pedophile as your leader, and you have the moral and ethical and the belly to talk about anybody else. That's the first thing. But I want to go on to the facts of the matter. The fact of the matter is that David Lee is before the court because the PNM is in government. Because the same matter, not with one vehicle, but two vehicles. Al-Rari, who was then the Attorney General, was investigated for a similar, you see the Lord moves in mysterious ways, a similar matter, but just that his was worst. He transferred two vehicles of the same kind, and then tells us that, listen, he write a letter, and the letter didn't reach, and the authorities accept that. But David Lee, the vehicle is not yet transferred, but he is charged because them assume that he sell it to somebody because the person has. So David Lee I can buy a car, have a next one that may be subjected to, let's say, some special tax exemption, and lend it to somebody to drive. I ain't transferred, so therefore you can't say that because that person is in possession of it regularly, they're packing it up home and so on. Only too damn fast, that is not only business. If I get a vehicle with that kind of concession, and I lend it to somebody, whether they have it in the garage on a daily basis or they're driving it as if it's there, that is not your business. That is not your business, and that will fail, just as, of course, everything else that they have, of course, tried to pin on the opposition. So I'm saying that David Lee is in that situation because the PNM is in government. Are evil, wicked, self-serving, self-aggrandizement, and, of course, vindictive in order, of course, to look good, but they will lose the election. 39 seats in Trinidad for the UNC, and it's configured because of that kind of abuse of office. And they themselves will now find themselves with blue lights and silver bracelets. Rest assured. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hey, Lennox,
yes.
Boy.
Yeah, you have to be quicker because we have others on the
line.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know if you have missed it out on the ground report.
Yes.
On the say Karma, right? When Port of Spain call and say only against the short young.
Yeah.
Because his ex-daughter get hold for drugs. Imagine that, he shoot himself with his foot. The man told that, and they pick it up on the ground, we put him Tuesday or Friday.
Whatever it is, but who the gods wish to destroy, they first send them mad, and that is what is expected. So I am not surprised.
The man told that.
Right.
He only against short young because he don't have his ex-daughter get hold with drugs. So he shoot himself when he put it? Eh?
But yes, of course, it becomes a political, topical hot potato.
In other words, they gone mad and all kind
Yes.
of talking shit now.
Yeah. So I am not surprised. I'm not surprised. You cannot, because if it was, you see, you have to measure it from their perspective, from a comparative analysis point of view. Because if that had happened to Kamala Prasad Bissessa's,
I telling you,
or any one of the major players in the UNC, you could see them up and down the place, so the daughter this and the daughter that. But nobody, but he must self-cleanse. He is untouchable. You can't talk about his daughter being, because they wanted make a distinction when they will make no such distinction for their political enemy. Hello, little.
And don't forget,
Yeah.
I'm driving the parliament to that 120 YF.
Well, I even studying that because I could talk about, of course, all those buildings that he acquired whilst he was and couldn't finish whilst under Manning, and then of course what he acquired whilst he was with Rowley, this incorrigible criminal that of course is now claiming that he wants out and leaving them there in the mess and the country. We're gonna deal with that at the appropriate time. We're gonna deal with that at the appropriate time. Yeah, we're talking about, of course.
I tell you about Dracula last night.
Yes.
Dracula was a real man.
Yes.
Until he turned vampire.
Yeah, Transylvania.
Yeah, up in the Carpathian Mountains.
I hear you, man. All right, let me go because we have a lot of people on.
Wait, call me ahead on.
Yes, I will. For tomorrow, yes.
All right.
Yes, a pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hey, pleasant good night going out to Mr. Lennox Smith. Lots of love going out to you, the whole ground report crew, Andy, Mikey K. You know what I'm saying? Now,
yes, ma'am.
Yes. Trinidadians need to realize this right from the get-go. First of all, let me state
Where you calling from? Where you calling from?
Calling from Rio Claro.
Oh, go ahead, Rio Claro, yes.
All right? So let me say the facts right from the get-go, all right? First of all, Rowley is a pedophile and he's a rapist.
Beautiful.
All right? Let me get that one time out the gate.
Yeah, some people find that difficult to comprehend. They can't take it, but they want to accuse others. You see, they see others that which is in them. Tolerance of that level of what I consider to be egregious acts.
But Rowley is a god, you know what I mean?
Egregious acts.
You know what I mean?
Of a predatory nature, sexual predatory nature. Go ahead. Yes.
I'm telling you, according to Giselle, them drinking dead people water. That's why they're so stupid.
Yeah.
Right? You telling me, right? You have a big grown man, right? Looking at a little smallie, right? In a high school, and you're gonna breed that? Are you comfortable with that? Are people supporting that?
Telling you, man, and saying he's leader. Leader, my hogwash.
You know, Lennox.
Yeah.
You know, Lennox. They had a sneaky out of Tobago, you know.
Of course, they had to sneak him out of Tobago. I understand, in a car trunk. He don't know we know all that.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for him. Let him send me a pre-action protocol letter. I sent him one for calling me a liar, but he didn't respond. He measure a big man, Prime Minister. I send you a pre-action protocol letter. You didn't even instruct your lawyer to send me back one. The time coming.
Why you give no pre-action protocol? Because it's the truth, right?
And that is the ultimate defense to defamation.
Right? And I say the man is a pedophile.
Yes.
Right? He's a pedophile, he's a rapist and all kind of thing. And this is just one thing, that the first thing.
Yeah, that's just one. And therefore ought not to be the head of the PNM, unqualified to be the head of the PNM, nor worse yet, Prime Minister of this country. He's no exemplar, and he's no what I consider to be person that you could follow.
No, but it gets worse. It gets worse. No, it have no. He little small pin coming up in there, whose stepdaughter, right? I don't care who say ex-stepdaughter and all kind of thing.
Yeah.
BS. Everybody know that, right? Everybody know that circle is close relations, right? So now the stepdaughter, right, come in the dance, right? One set of drugs and everything like that. Where she is in Venezuela, being some kind of lawyer or some kind of thing like that, you know, right? That's one thing. Before that, no, right? Alferi, right? Minister Tight Pants, he children on a range, shooting gun and all kind of thing like that. Big, and it's not no alleged thing. This is real.
Of course,
thing.
these are facts.
Right?
None
These
of
are
them. Rowley confessed
Right?
to that, and Al-Rari remained definitely silent, and silent to say is consent.
Now, when you come studying boys, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know, he is studying that, right? Let me go further now, right? Where we 3 point something billion going? Where that gone, Lennox?
They are silent on the matter, even though the Privy
Right.
Council say why Imsbert is not investigated.
So,
Go ahead.
So, the Privy Council say, why is the Minister of Finance not being investigated in
That's
Trinidad and
right.
Tobago? Right? But, you know, we're a banana republic right here, right? That's the next thing. Right?
All right,
Let me go
we have to
further
limit.
on
You have to
the road
limit.
now.
You have to limit the next things because of course we have a lot of people on the line.
Let me go back to, okay, I'm just going to keep this, I just want to state 2 more things.
Quickly,
my brother.
quickly, because
Right?
people are on the line. Just.
Wait, that money for Camille, who is up with that? Right? Who is up with that? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And the last thing I want to state here right now, my brother, right? All the monies that is going towards all this BS from fundraisers and all kind of thing like that, it needs to have accountability for that, as well as all the money that is being spent through BS programs and all kind of thing like that. They need to have where the money going, how it's spending, and who's spending it. All right, love in the house.
Yes, man. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, well done. A pleasant good night, Mr. Faizabad. Sorry about that. I know that you have been trying for a little while. Go ahead, my friend.
A pleasant good night to you, Uncle Lux, and all your listeners.
A pleasant good night to you as well, my friend.
And share all your PNM supporters for the diehard.
Yeah. Share the damn thing. Share the live. Share the
All your
live.
friends.
Let all
All
of
your
your
friends.
colleagues and your friends and ministers and shadow ministers and of course what I consider the kitchen cabinet ministers, all of them, tell them that Lennox Smith is calling Rowley a rapist and a pedophile again, and that he could do nothing about it, and that all you are damn fools, and therefore birds of feather flock together, and are calling all you vicariously tolerators. You are tolerators of rapists and pedophiles, and therefore your children and your children's children are in jeopardy with people like all you who want to countenance and tolerate rape and rapists as your leaders. You know what I say? I say your children should be barking at you now. Well, you're nasty to, of course, tolerate a man like that and want to defend, and in circumstances where it is indefensible. Go ahead, Mr. Faizabad. Sorry for my outburst, but of course it was necessary.
This is what we have in I was always telling you, we have a discussion, not an analog.
Yes,
and
right.
we analyzing everything. And I wanted to call that the only cabinet had 2 ministers in each ministry and still failed for 10 years. And I would like them to call up Dial Singh tonight and tell them, listen to Lennox.
Hey.
Because you want to find out about the Prado. The Prado he did buy him. So
That's right. But you
Dial
talk
Singh
about
call-
Lee is in problem because the PNM is in government. That's the only reason why. But that's a nonsensical case. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, so, and I want all of them to call out Foster Cummins and ask him about the Chatham Youth Camp. How much it really take? They done put in already. And how far it's finished? $28 million. Call Foster Cummins earlier. Share the live and tell Foster Cummins we're asking questions on the corridor transformation. We want to know how much they care for youths and call him out and ask him if he know anything in Estonia where NHF AGC property is converted into commercial entities. So if we want to find out that he deal with it as the minister, you understand?
A bunch of
so call them out and let them know.
corrupt, evil, wicked, greedy, avarice, who of course are total and absolute criminals, gangsters at the highest level, as the Bible have a description for them. Evil and wickedness in high places. That is what the Bible describes them as. And you want to believe that that is sustainable? No! The time has come for us to expose the tales and to let the population and the world know that this is a tragedy that is, of course, unfolding on Trinidad and Tobago. And if we don't expunge that from our consciousness and from our political and from our governmental operations, that Trinidad and Tobago will certainly, in the not too distant future, or put another way, in the near and immediate, be a failed state. Go ahead, my friend.
And to let the Prime Minister outgoing know that the Judith Jones report is still on a shelf in the office of pedophile actions and misbehavior for children.
Yes,
we
man.
want that report before he leaves.
Right,
and
beautiful, man.
Uncle Lennox.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. We have some
No,
other people
before you
coming.
go.
Go ahead.
Wait, that's not before you go.
Go ahead.
I want the people at Laventille to know that is over 3,000 people of them had changed their mind to the UNC and the other party and support. Now is the time to make a difference, and they have the opportunity to live better and get good representation going forward in life. So I will leave it there tonight, because I want to say, people of Laventille, listen to Uncle Lennox. He's working hard through the MILO and the Love Movement. It's for all the betterment, how much he has. Come out and support and be the change in all the life. Good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my friend, of course. Yes, indeed. Let them understand that reality is reality and there's nothing you can do about it. It is about time. And let me say this, let me go further to say, every single issue that you bring up against the UNC and Kamala Prasad Bisesa, we, without doubt, and it is it is either automated or it is automatic, that what the PNM has concocted has said to make it look as though there is something untoward about the UNC and Kamala Prasad Bisesa. We could say from up front is a blasted lie, a concoction of their pernicious, evil, wicked, diabolical, and extremely fertile imagination, but a wicked imagination, a diabolical imagination, a very vindictive and evil and sinister imagination, with the agenda of attempting to sanitize themselves and to deflect attention away from them in order, of course, to stay in office. I say to you that and a pink donkey in terms of the next elections in 2025, you would see the PNM winning any blasted seat in this country. It's about time that we understand. And don't get me vexed, because the emails after 3 years they turn out to be fake, false, from this criminal and this pedophile and rapist that the PNM said is their leader for the last 10 years. Hello, Laventille. Can't talk to anybody. Shut up and listen. That's what you have to do. No talk. Don't write nothing. Because it is water on duck back. Nobody believes you. And you yourself don't even believe what you're writing. And of course, you should now be turning your pens and pencils to, of course, the leadership of the PNM to make them understand that you are no fool. And therefore, you will not regurgitate the nonsense that they are regurgitating, because the other side have the facts, instantaneous proof as to what the reality is. And some of which, of course, you who are reluctantly engaged in troll behavior to suggest that somehow the PNM has some kind of credibility. No, it should be relegated to the dustbin of political history in this country, and it will, because blue lights and silver bracelets, because the UNC has brighter, better, and more experience, legal luminaries than that of the PNM. The PNM can win a good case even though they have the whole treasury at their disposal. They're just paying lawyers to lose case against the UNC. Let's not waste time, and don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about before I tell you about, of course, the Vincent Nelson matter, and of course, Anand Ramlogan and his colleague, Don't get me vexed, because they tried to frame up the people and them. That is the conclusion one has to draw. Utilizing our money, millions of dollars, to do what? To stay in office, to exploit nincompoops like those who would come on the live and pretend that they don't know the truth, and then, of course, reluctantly, when you go home tonight, search your conscience. A pleasant good night. Welcome, Mr. Trincity.
Pleasant good night. Well, Lennox,
Hey.
you like a clear sky. When you look upstairs, you only see that one star, one bright star, and that is you, boy.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. It's about time we let the people know what time to get off one and what time it is. It is about, of course, yellow is the code, and the Kamala Prasad Bissesa, the UNC and its configuration must now take over the reins of government to take us to the promised land and beyond. Go ahead.
Yes. And exactly that is what was coming through my mind here now. Because
yes, man.
if you really look at it, these politicians and them, I mean in the PNM party here, and I'm referring to all of them, it's like down in the Lavas, all them cover on them on the line, on the electric wire, and everyone that flying and going right back there, so all their covers together stay together. Because if you're telling me now, the man is a rapist and all these things, what about the Akil Chambers thing? So all of them in the whole clique.
You just have to apply your common sense now, and you will draw the inescapable conclusion that the PNM is a network of this kind of egregious, despicable, human exploitative conduct, and then use office to try to deflect attention away from themselves. Hold on your tail.
Yes, it is. They're putting a screen over it so that people will be aware of what
because
what
they have a machinery and a group of individuals who are prepared to regurgitate that like parrots without, of course, investigating. It's a bunch of despicable, inhumane, devilish, nasty, barbaric individuals. And we have to accept that as a fact. Go ahead.
Let me just ask you this question. I wonder if these CARICOM people don't know who it is that
they know. Let me tell you something. They know. Let me just pause you here. They know. But he is the Prime Minister. So therefore, all the diplomatic accolades and all of the diplomatic courtesies will be extended to a fellow Prime Minister. Just imagine if in that session, let me say, Motley say, but Rowley, anybody in Trinidad accusing you of being a rapist, how that will go down in the diplomatic circles, especially with the other members who will say, but if I was a Prime Minister and that happening, you ain't supposed to tell me that, because of course you're supposed to say nice things about me, particularly if I'm leaving. So we understand the niceties that would have I like the term you use, the protocol. It's protocol we're dealing with here. I don't expect Motley to say that he's a bad man, nor the Prime Minister of Grenada, nor Guyana, etc. Even though we know that Guyana and the Trinidad and Tobago, and he in particular, had their differences, especially in the last local election, when Gary Griffith said that somebody said that Gary Griffith had garnered more votes than he really had in fact gotten, and then Rowley turned and said, what happened? You feel that Guyanese dollar or what? Right? And the Vice President of Guyana pick it up, and went on to threaten Trinidad. Because they say, well, if it is that he lampooning, he mamagaing, he caricaturing, he mocking our dollar, then I want him to know. That's the president of Ghana, vice president talking. He said, I want him to know that businesses from Trinidad are coming here in Guyana and that they are asking for foreign exchange. And when they get the foreign exchange, they are taking part of it and funding businesses in Trinidad. They say, we know that. That is the kind of nonsense that this man has engendered by that kind of talk. Are you telling me that Irfan Ali was not on his diplomatic best or his protocol best? Come on, that's what that was. But they didn't mean that. They're glad to see the backs of this nincompoop.
Yes. He's Lennox. This man is only one of them Kobo on electric wire.
That's right. That's what he is. And I don't waste time with that.
Yeah, but hear what? I just want some. Who it is? Let me ask you a question, and I will come off here now.
Go ahead.
Who it is have to pull the trigger for Imbert to be investigated? Who does it?
The very government. The very government. It's Imbert who went to the cabinet and said that the Auditor General should be investigated, and proceeded, of course, to put the team together, It's the same government. Same government has to make a decision if they have the moral and ethical pillar and forthrightness so to do. But they don't. It's a bunch of gangsters.
No. Yeah.
That's what they are.
So the question I'm asking you now, is anybody out of that circle, be it opposition, be it a civil citizen, be it any I should say any entity that's out of the realm of the government can pursue something like that? Or
no, that is the problem with the Westminster system of government. The Westminster system of government states that winner takes all. First past the post, winner takes all. So when you are in government, you are in total control. The only how you can be adjudicated is at the end, or if you call an early election, or a no confidence motion is of course upheld in Parliament, which is hardly likely because the government would have had the majority, and in such circumstance here, only the government. That is why Imbert was confident, of course, to go, even though he is guilty of misconduct in public office and abuse of office. He can now, should I say, strangely, miraculously, if you want to call it, mysteriously say that he is going to launch an investigation into an independent institution called the Office of the Auditor General, and proceed to put the people together, whilst of course the independent apex court of this country, the Privy Council, say, why the hell you investigate yourself too then?
Well, if one question before I leave, and clarify that they're not fair now. So if he had it to the attorney, the Audit General, and he pursued that, can she do the opposite direction and pursue him based on that?
She has been doing it, but cannot initiate an investigation into him. What she has done is to file what is called judicial review to question and to examine how he is able to do that, and the courts will decide that.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
but
right,
she cannot initiate an investigation against Imbert. Is the cabinet led by Rowley and that so-called anointed leader, but more importantly, the Chinese man, when and if he ends up, of course, in the chair.
Well, anyhow, as you say, they had to call them their names, and I address them the names for today night out.
Yes,
man. The correct names.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, let me just get this other call. A person, good night. Welcome to the corridor. You have to be very, yes, you have to be very short because we have a lot of calls. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Talk to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you, yes.
What you said? Talk because you have a lot of calls?
I said be short because we have a lot of calls, yes.
How short so?
Go ahead, don't bother that, just talk now and we're going to decide what we do, how short it will be. You had experience for
Well, I
person.
want to talk about. Let me load this thing here too. I ain't hearing it. Let me
Okay.
tell you about the CARICOM people,
Yeah.
like Miss Motley. I heard you talking about her and Rowley. These two people are good friends, you know. She don't care how much he raped, how much pedophile he is, right? Because she is a person don't think nothing about, you know, LBGTQ plus and all this kind of thing, right? If it's a LVGT or, well, let's say the alphabet family,
Yes.
if you go there in Barbados and they want a honeymoon and thing, they could honeymoon in the hotel and thing.
And you can marry and all of that. Yes, yes.
And they could marry too, not so?
Yes, 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 they can. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It ain't like the time when it had this kind of LGBTQ party on the avenue or I think St. James there by some place, and they went and cracked down on the thing because it had all kind of show and modeling with these people
Yes,
with
yes.
their cross dress and thing. Them thing okay in she country.
That's right.
She good with that.
Yes.
And which you know, at one time I think she wanted to distribute, it's okay to distribute condoms, have condoms in the jail. You follow me?
Yeah, yeah.
The same heavy
Yeah,
bite
that-
woman
that-
are talking
I
about.
remember that very distinctly because that caused me to, Heinz had said when Manning had fired him, that of course, and give him back, I think, two jobs, but not as minister, but give him 2 jobs. And then he said, but you know, he had to accept it because there's an old saying by the Africans, when your ankle hurt you, your whole body does bend to take care of it. So I then turned and say, well, go and say that in Barbados. So I understand fully well where you're coming from.
Yes, so them kind of thing, bothering she like what Rowley do. Them is partner. So people have to pay full attention to these CARICOM heads, how close they are.
Yes.
But let me jump to the one from Jamaica. The little schoolboy they have over there now, it look like he has 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
The Prime Minister.
Yes, yes, that's wholeness.
He mouth need to sew up for the kind of way he want to be talking to all kind of heads of certain organizations and things, right? Are trying to be short, eh?
Mm-hmm.
He had to know how to talk, right? I find he like to talk too much. I talk about Africa. Take he and put him in Africa. He ain't going to want to stay 6 months there, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when the Rastafarian did go to Africa, even though they give them a certain portion, many of them had to leave. But of course, some stayed because they were too ashamed to get back because the Lion of Judah was supposed to be Hail Haile Selassie, you know, and all of that kind of man-made.
Put him in some parts in Africa, however, he ain't want to stay there. Living down here good. People must understand we born here. This is the West Indies. We born here in the Western Hemisphere, and is there nobody had time with all the set of talk where he talking there. All they must pay attention to how they talking.
All right.
The U.S., hold up, the U.S. asked him to house some of the migrants in his country, and he refused because he ignorant too. He don't have too much of sense. He say here is only for the party from he country, he will take them. And as I told you, countries in the region, several of them taking in migrants from other countries. Now the U.S. asked them to only house them. That is the Grenadian man, the little boy now.
Yes.
To house them. He ain't then talking for you to put these people out in the open and to mix and all of that, right? And study. And he's saying that, you know, their people wouldn't understand them and that, you know, it's a different culture. No, the man will have them housed in, you know, they would have them housed somewhere and they
once the Americans are prepared to
and
finance
everything.
it. The Americans are prepared to finance it, yeah.
This little fella, he making it bad for his country. And when things go bad with them and they get them something in the tail where they can't deal with, you know where they're running for help.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Right, so
But sure, that can help
we have
yourself
to
right now.
watch how they just talk, because whatever them say come out their mouth, it will affect when they get the shaft.
Yeah.
It affecting
Yeah, well, better cook than
everybody
them.
here.
Better cook than them crew, whether it's Colombia, who again was talking loud. Panama was talking loud, and they had, of course, humble. Even Canada
Nah,
was.
Panama
even
didn't
Ca-
say anything. They want
even Canada was talking
they
loud,
say
and
they
they
had
had
to
to
tell
humble.
the Panamanians to get the Chinese out,
Yes.
and the Chinese
And they got them
had
out.
to
They got
stop
them out.
this
They got them out.
construction.
Yeah. All right. Okay
Yeah.
then.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye bye. Yes, indeed. Sorry about that, caller from San Fernando. I think we took a little more than we would have expected. But of course, I thought it was important to, of course, address these issues. Let's go straight. Once again, of course, we have another call here. Pleasant good night to welcome.
Lennox, good night again. Short
Yes.
and sweet. I
Short
want to
and
ask
sweet,
you a
yes.
question.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you a question. Was the Sabga, the McNichols, and the Judith Jones report
Uh-huh.
on anybody in the UNC, or was it based solely on the PNM pedophile ring?
The PNM
Right?
pedophile ring,
And-
essentially, because they're talking about government ministers, but these ministers, when they realize that it is they are the ones in focus, what they try to do is try to, of course, decentralize and to incorporate. You see, it's like misery loves company. So what they do when they say a minister or they say government officials, they then try to say that it doesn't necessarily mean ministers of government. That is what they do. They use of course what is called semantics in order and another term that is used, circumlocution, roundabout talk, in order to deflect attention away from themselves. But the fact that the report has said that is government official, and it was of course a report within a specific period when the PNM was in government or is in government, then it is clear that government official had to mean Rowley and his cabinet and his kitchen cabinet.
Right. No, in the Judith Jones report, based on evidence from Daniel and Francois, those were two boys that were killed, right? Before they died, they said that there was this, let me describe it, short, stocky, ugly man with a short rasp from the PNM.
Clearly they were referring to, let us not waste time, they're referring to Scott. Are talking about, of course, the representative for Port of Spain South, and of course the current minister in the Ministry of National Security are talking about Scotland. Go ahead.
Okay, right. And they said they didn't get his name, but they describe him, right? And they said he was in the PNM. Nowhere did it say they were UNC. So tonight, as a concerned citizen, I am asking Slimy, Manifesto Mako, if you know that there are people in the UNC that traffic in children, and I'm going to repeat it, there are people in the UNC that traffic in children, it is your civic duty to go and report it to the DPP at Double Corner House, Mako.
Well, listen, let us not waste time, because on this occasion, in this situation, they would have been regurgitating what people who have a serious chip on their shoulder have, like the former minister in the UNC, and of course he has animosity for Kamala Prasad because he was thrown out. I think it's two of them. One name was, of course, he called himself a doctor now. And therefore what they would say is that it's not me say it, is them say it, of course knowing full well that they only talking that because they have a chip on their shoulder, and that they have what I consider to be acrid intent for Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the UNC, but they can't prove it either.
Lennox, they didn't have a chip, you know. They have a whole tree, an oak tree on their shoulder.
I hear you, my friend.
I am saying tonight,
all of that.
As a responsible citizen.
With a Devon Mirage. Devon Mirage is the man. Devon Mirage. Yeah. based on what he said.
And this other one to rugby, yeah.
Rugby, that's right,
And
exactly. So
Lennox,
let us not be like them and try to, of course, avoid those realities. But they pounce on that, they cling on to that like, of course, a leash, like, of course, a ticking dog, bam bam, and you know, without, of course, hoping that we would not know that these people have a chip on the shoulder. That is why they're trying, of course, to embroil the UNC into
Lennox?
the PNM nonsense.
And before I go, I want to say, as responsible citizens, you are worse than those people that you accuse of being pedophiles. Because if you know something like that going on, it is your responsibility, it's your duty to go and report it to the
Long
police.
before.
Thanks a lot, Lennox.
So that is why we know that the veracity of those so-called former chip on the shoulder UNC has-beens, we know that they have more in the mortar than the pestle when they make these statements at this time, merely to try to embroil and at the same time reduce by attempting to damage the credibility and the viability of the UNC. We know that, and therefore we are not going to run from it. I'm not going to say it wasn't said, but it's the context in which it was said that has to be, of course, critically examined for the purposes of this discussion. But the fact of the matter is, it came when the PNM, because you can't tell me that the fellow who got buggered in the swimming pool in Marval, it was UNC. You cannot be so mad to take a car and suddenly convert it into a tractor. That is mad thinking. That is illogical. That is nonsense. It was done, and those reports were within the context of the PNM and the period in which it was in existence, and therefore you cannot, of course, try to take blood out of stone. That is a blasted stone. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hello, good night. This is San Fernando.
Yes, go ahead, San Fernando.
You're talking about a caller just now was talking about the Auditor General and how come Colin Booth was not taken to court.
Yes.
I want to make a contribution on it because I find there's no law in Trinidad. Because now, if you're running a business or an organization and you're supposed to do your accounts, once you do your accounts and money missing, if money missing, right, and it is proven that the money is missing, then where is the fraud squad? If in any organization you're running and that happens, then the fraud squad should get involved. You understand where I'm coming from? With the Auditor General, I know that she needs public support also, but how come the fraud squad itself is not involved in all of this? And the thing is, the politics in Trinidad is being played in a very stupid, what I should say, way, because Keith Rowley and they have gotten rid of all the independent bodies, like the Integrity Commission and all of that. So,
well, they have not gotten rid of it, but they have infiltrated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, infiltrated them, I should say.
Infiltrated is the word I should use, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, yes.
So I want to find out how come no law, is there no law in Trinidad to say that Coleman Booth really should be investigated and brought to justice for the $3 billion that is missing?
There is no independent institution, even though there is an independent institution. That's an oxymoron, it's a built-in contradiction. But you would appreciate it that when Rowley and they select a commissioner of police or assistant in that process, they select people who would do their biddings, or put another way, will throw a blind eye to issues like these. Even though, of course, the apex court has made a very categorical statement, even though it is not part of the what is called the ratio decidendi, the reason for making the decision, because there's a other part of the let's say the decision or the conclusion or the decision of the court that is called one is ratio decidendi, and the other one is, of course, by the way, the observation by the way, but that also carries weight, but not as much weight as the ratio decidendi. So they will claim that why the court say so, they didn't command that it be so. You see, because it's not part of the reason for the decision, but it's merely an observation made by one of the law lords. That is the argument that they're using, when they should be observing that too and investigate cause to be investigated Imsbert. Go ahead, my friend.
I don't know, but I might be looking at it very simple.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, I believe that there should have been somebody who should have picked up the case within the fraud squad, and that person should have,
Well, if the police was acting and could act independently, that could. Let me say this first. This could only happen because the PNM is in government. But if the police, on the other hand, was acting independently, they would have launched an investigation based on the decision that was made, even though it was part of the not the ratio decidendi, but the other aspect of the decision. Go ahead.
But still, it went as far as the Privy Council, right? And still nobody doing anything about it.
Yeah, because as I just said, it was part of the obiter dicta. There is a ratio decidendi, and you have the obiter dicta. The obiter dicta is an observation made by one or the entire law lords. That's an observation. It is not to say go and do this. Like how in the case of just now, in the case of the decision to call the Tobago elections. No, sorry, the local government elections. Notice they say you must call the elections within a certain period, full stop. And the government had to hurry and go and call the elections, because if it was for them, based on their decision, they would have done it a whole year ahead. But because the court say you must call it within 3 months, and it should have been done already, boy, they put mechanism in place, and of course got EBC ready, and of course to get the tail cut again after they get the tail cut in Tobago. That's the PNM I'm talking about. Well, in this case, it is not like that. It is that the court say, listen, the ratio decidendi is that the Auditor General can review the decision made by Imsbert to create an investigating panel to investigate her. So that is the specific matter that was in dispute, and for which the Privy Council had to make a decision. But the other part of it, where the Privy Council said, the obiter dicta, where the Privy Council said that why is it that Imbert is not investigated? Because it is part of the obiter dicta. Rowley and they would not encourage or will not initiate or are not compelled to, of course, investigate, Imbert. That is the big difference, yes.
So our only option is what? A general election?
That's right. General elections, get rid of them, and Imbert, Rowley, and the entire cabinet, Bamsi must be, of course, palpitating excessively, as blue lights and silver bracelets will inevitably visit them.
Yeah, okay. Well, I thought it was as simple as saying.
No, it's not as simple, because they said no. You see, it wasn't part of the decision what was asked of them to decide upon, but it mentioned that by the way, and therefore that cannot be part of the decision, and therefore it doesn't compel them. You see, they have now, for example, the court has now to accommodate the Auditor General on the question of questioning why Imbert caused a committee to investigate the independent office of the Auditor General. That was what they went to the Privy Council for. Imbert was saying no, she don't have that right to. When the Privy Council said yes, she have that right to, and therefore they have to, of course, pursue that. They're now talking about time when and all of that now because it has to happen. But the other part, which of course they mentioned that of course Imbert should be investigated. That part was not the specific issue that was of concern and examination for the attention of the Privy Council, and therefore it is part of the obiter dicta, by the way, an observation. All right?
Yeah, okay, all right.
Good,
okay.
yes.
All right, yeah, later. All right.
And therefore, in those circumstances, it falls right inside, of course, the what I consider the sleaziness of the PNM. It gives them an opportunity not to initiate investigations against Imbert. It's something similar to when, of course, the DPP, the deputy DPP, in the Emailgate matter, they end up giving Rowley what I consider to be a tenuous or inchoate, incomplete lifeline when they say that, they cannot make a determination whether Rowley lied or not deliberately because of all of these circumstances, and therefore no prosecution for him for what I see, what I believe is treason in motion. And if it was a liquid, it will be flowing like a huge river. Yes, but people, of course, I have for some time up this particular video that is showing in the back of me. We are nearing, of course, we are now, yes, I mean, let me just make sure and get some expansion on this. You need to see the entire thing. Let me just make sure that happens now. I'm trying to expand. Let me see. Right, good. I think I got it there on that side. See if I get on this side now. See, so you can see a little more. I think that should be it. Let me make sure. All right, so that's it there. And maybe we should have a little more to the bottom there to see a little more. You see, it's important now because Laventille has entered into a very critical phase of its development and its political evolution. You hear the kind of talk I'm talking about? In its political evolution. You see, as I've argued, PNM or Laventille, it's very survival. And they have returned that loyalty with ache, pain, agony, and of course, betrayal and neglect. And neglect of the worst kind, because the area has deteriorated under PNM, has been so for a very long time. But what remains historical, what remains an indelible implantation on the psyche, the intelligence, the culture, the economy, and the social evolution of the country, but more specifically to that area, is the presence of the PNM over the years and with the corresponding or concomitant or corresponding loyalty of that community to the PNM, and the PNM believes that somehow if they take a crapo or with a balisé, with whatever form, tie or otherwise, and put it up in Laventille to contest, it will win because it is seen as a voter bank for the PNM. I say to you that the Laventille outreach for vertical enrichment is not a fly-by-night or an opportunistic entity wanting to represent Laventille for representation's sake. No! From the time you see Lennox Smith is behind something, you must know it is to benefit and profit the people. And don't get me vexed before I start to unveil and offload what I have done through the various institutions that I have attached myself to, and of course in the name of the Laventilles. And Laventille here, in my view, is the geographic Laventille that includes, of course, East Port of Spain, who go right over the hills, on top the hills St. Babs, and down, of course, into Chinapoo, and into Mova, and Malik, and, of course, you're coming south to, of course, Beetham, and Silats, and parts of Belmont and Gonzales in the northern part of the area, the geographic space of which I speak. Let's not waste time. Let us not waste time. It's too much at stake here for the community itself and that of the country. Because I have always said and will continue to say, if you solve the Laventille question, you solve the crime and criminality, blue-collar crime that is, in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, I say if you solve the Laventille question, you solve crime, blue-collar crime in Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore a more peaceful and a more crime reduced drastically Trinidad and Tobago. You therefore have greater prosperity, and greater prosperity here means more work, less poverty. I remember doing a program in Grenada, and we were talking about, of course, the United Nations Millennium Goals. And one of which was, of course, to reduce poverty. And I would use the term eradicate poverty. And the minister will tell me, Smith, don't say eradicate. Because somehow they believe it is impossible. Well, I say to you, if the resources of the country, and we have a GDP per capita, in other words, if the monies that we make on an annual basis in Trinidad was spread among the people of Trinidad and Tobago, everybody would have gotten or should be getting at least 20 to 25, something 50. Something 50,000 US. Everybody. But the economy doesn't operate like that, because money by its very nature has to be scarce. I was telling my son that the other day. Money has to be scarce. Everybody can have. If it's like stone, then of course if I want a pound of sugar, I just go pick up 3 stones and I buy. But who would produce the sugar afterwards? Because the person who producing the sugar could also go and find stone too. So it cannot be. The economic system caters for the scarcity of the commodity, and you have to work for it in such a way so that, of course, you act frugally and be able to accumulate more and more and more and expand, of course, on your quality of life and standard of living, and making sure, of course, that you have all the necessities of life, whether it be food, shelter, clothing, and entertainment these days. That's not waste time. So the point I am making with respect, of course, to Laventille is that we gave the country, quite apart from saving the PNM, that has and should have had an obligation to Laventille to make sure that it has almost everything, if not everything. For sure, what has occurred and what is occurring cannot be considered to be a focus on Laventille. Cannot be. Cannot be. It's impossible. It is a betrayal. But we gave the country its national culture, steel band and calypso. Smith Simon right on Picton Road there, when you Picton in John and then up Picton Hill, you will see. And from that basis alone, or from them two bases, saving the PNM and giving the nation its national culture, one expects that greater attention will be paid to these communities that make up the geographic space called Laventille, that houses three constituencies: Laventille East, Laventille West, and Port-au-Prince South. The history is well known. We have been neglected. And inside of there, we have higher than national average murders, higher than national average criminals, higher than national average gangs, higher than national average young people gravitating to a life of crime, higher than national average young people not performing well at the primary or the secondary school levels. There is more. Higher than national average, of course, young people, young girls making children. What a tragedy. You understand the cycle of decadence. You understand the cycle of poverty. You understand the cycle of what I consider to be subterranean culture, where violence and abuse of women in more ways than one, whether physically, whether psychologically, and physical here also mean men who are reckless and disturbingly evil, and they will make children with girls and women that love them, let me put it that way, and don't mind the children and them. So that you have higher than national average persons who should be going to the courts to get child support, but they don't, because they fear the man or they don't like the publicity, and that they will struggle to raise children in such an environment, physical, emotional, but raise children that most likely will not be able to take advantage of the educational opportunities. Understand that? Because they can't provide for them. They can't even buy the school uniform, the shoes, the books. They can't provide adequate space for them to learn their work. They cannot provide the nutritional requirements to have them go to school, to be able to absorb adequately as a human being that is subjected, of course, to all of the functionalities of a human being, whether it be on the basis of the systems that make up, of course, the human being, whether it be the nervous system, whether it be the skeleton system, whether it be the muscular system, whether it be the endocrine system, yes, those parts of your body that of course will secrete special secretions directly into your blood so that you could perform certain things, especially in times of danger. Like of course, as my son was indicating to me the other day, he's 9 years of age, and he was telling me about of course the adrenaline glands that is centered or is placed on top of the kidneys. And when that secretes, of course, adrenaline, it makes you perform. Your muscles are loosened to perform acts that you normally will not be able so to do. And he gave me the example that if you're in a big field and you're hearing moo and you're hearing get up, and there's a fence there, the adrenaline gland will come into action and the adrenaline will be secreted into your blood, and the muscles of course will become very flexible, and there's a fence ahead of you and you will jump the blasted fence in order of course to get away from danger. The point I am making here is that when all of these are not functioning in these young people who go to school, then they are what I consider to be biological wrecks that are going to school to absorb something that cannot be absorbed because they are lacking, of course, the nutritional requirements that all of these systems in your body, whether, as I said, the muscular system, the nervous system, the digestive system, some 9 systems in all, and several glands, whether it be of course the eyes, that's a gland by itself, whether it be of course the liver, whether it be the kidneys. I am saying so with an elaborate emphasis because we have to understand what the problem is. And this PNM government has been in office for the longest and has manipulated that area politically and dominated it. And up to now, nothing that they have done can demonstrate that they have understood the socio-economic and psycho-cultural as well as the what I consider to be the biological support mechanism to ensure that the community generally performs as it ought to, like other well-to-do communities. And when you cannot eat properly, people, and your roads and your drains and your homes are decrepit, are deteriorating with a rapidity that makes you want to puke, vomit, and contributes, of course, to the embarrassment not just of the residents, but the stigmatization that is a part of the human quality, the human, what I consider to be response. We ain't talking yet about the role of the media. We ain't talking about the role of the writers who will write about Laventille in the most excoriating and the most damning and the most and greatest of exasperation, that you feel it's only monsters that are living there. Well, I want to tell you that there are pockets, too few, but there are pockets of opulence. If you go along the Lady Young Road, for example, and just before the walkover, as we call it there, and you look on the right side, and you look on the hills on the left, you will see buildings, homes that are similar to, or put another way, indistinguishable from those of Valsayn and Westmoreland. Yes, people, you will see that. But because it is dominated by a plethora or over a preponderance of course, shacks and mediocre, if you want to call it that, buildings that seem to have been put together merely, of course, to make life comfortable in very difficult and harsh circumstances. I am saying to you, in other words, that the PNM had the responsibility to ameliorate and to, of course, by now, provide facilitation that we, at this point, ought not to be talking about the decadence and the travails that is that community. We ought not to be talking about that. And what is embarrassing, especially on the hills, the existence of latrines, what is called nicely outhouses, to use a euphemism. That's what we are talking about, people, still exist. And we must tolerate the PNM still in Laventille. We are suckers for punishment. But let's go to the lines before we continue. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Pleasant good night, Uncle Lennox.
Night to you, my friend. Yes.
Yes, St. Anne's here. I was listening to interview with Mikey and Israel Khan.
Yes.
And in that interview, Israel Khan mentioned something that the judicial system in the verge of collapse.
Yes.
And if it is, he could say that. Well, I don't know what is going on. Like everything right now in this country is crime to flourish and blossom. And that's my contribution for tonight, Uncle Lennox.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you heard what he said, right? He said that, of course, Israel Khan, the head of the Bar Association in this country, SC, Senior Counsel, has claimed or said that the judicial system has collapsed. And that is as a result or a product of the situation, and whether you want to consider Laventille as a microcosm, meaning that an example of what is out there and can be replicated in other parts of the country, the fact of the matter is my focus on Laventille and the fact that if it is focused upon must be the panacea, or put another way, it will of course address the blue-collar crime in this country and put it to rest or arrested once and for all, is real and is reinforced because they have neglected the area in circumstances where they had a right to, of course, pay emphasis and generate. You can't tell me that Laventille still are latrines, and the PNM beating the chest. And there are sycophants and, of course, diehards who are there, whose job it is because they are given some pixie dust like a 10 days or a CPEP contract. And then, of course, their job is to keep the status quo as is. But let me tell all you something. That is not sustainable, cannot last, and will not last. And then the country will, of course, explode eventually. We saw it, of course, in 1970. We saw it in 1990, albeit, of course, for different reasons and circumstances, but the underlying reality is the same. Underlying reality is the same. Neglect and decadence, poverty, and of course, disillusionment and hopelessness. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good morning. Good night, Lennox.
Good night, my friend. Good night. Yes.
How everything working out?
Oh, magnificent, man. You see it for yourself, man. Things happening now. You are beneficiary of that now.
Good.
Yes.
How the camera working?
Magnificent. I ain't put it on the system on a nightly basis yet, but some of the videos that you'll be seeing, that took those pictures.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Lennox, let me give my like conclusion here. I ain't still out.
Yes, go ahead, my friend.
You know, say, Rowley did not come to run no government. He come to mashed up because some bandana he have against the people at Trinidad and Tobago, I don't know what. So he come to prove a point. That's my that's my opinion, no?
No, I agree with you, and I'll tell you why afterwards. Go ahead. Yeah.
Take the money, get the money where you want it. Because you say you don't like his money, sleep out, you know what? So he take his money, he fix himself, and him gone. That's it. And the people at Trinidad and Tobago, he said they're stupid, they're really stupid. To that man, to let that man do that. A beautiful country, I mean, I was there. A beautiful country like that, Lennox.
Yep.
I love it. Beautiful country, man. People don't realize that. I live in here, but when I go over there, it's a different story, you know? It's a beautiful country. I don't like to, Lennox, so you can elaborate that what I was saying.
Yes, I certainly will. I certainly will, yes.
All right.
Let me tell you something. There is validity in what the man say. Because Rowley has proven to be a heartless individual, a reckless individual, a brutal individual, a shamer of victims of crime. We saw that when, of course, he told women that he's not in the bedroom and he can't tell what man to take. We saw that when he said that young girls fighting, they are like hyenas in the African jungle. We saw when he said that of course, women are like golf courses. And all of the grooming, what I consider to be adjectives that he were able to conjure up in support of that misogynic statement. So that's one hand. We saw him as a narcissist because he believes that he could do no wrong and that everything he says is correct even though he is doing evil. I come in. You saw what he would say to, of course, journalists and tell them get out your face or door or close down your cell phone if you're talking to people outside of his press conference. We saw him just recently when he couldn't explain, of course, the justification for taking the salaries review commission's increase. He tell them, all you can say all you want. I gone. Good day. All of that. I ain't finished yet. But let's hear this call because we give you the right of way. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Lennox, one for the road.
Go ahead.
Remember, it was the partnership government who started the eradication of cesspits in Laventille.
Yes, indeed.
And when PNM came into office, Franklin Tan stopped it as the local government minister and said that they had no money to continue it. But Rowley had money, 5 million for painting and buying new cars and vanity projects. But his shell nuts, he couldn't eradicate the cesspit in them. Lennox, they are using grocery bags. You hear? Because when the toilet's full, how is the pump trucks and them going up there to empty it? No pump trucks are going up there. I remember when we used to go to Laventille devotions, they looked you couldn't walk that hill. You couldn't walk that hill. The scent that was coming out from there. And they don't want to make themselves better. Patty, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Thanks, Lennox.
Yes, indeed. But as she mentioned that, yes, they have even coined a term for using gazette paper, defecating on it. And the process to get rid of it is called skying. You see it. The recent one I knew was just about Mova Junction there, just on the left-hand side, and just before, of course, Mova Avenue commenced. It is a regular feature on the hill where there's latrines or no latrines. In fact, in this case, there's no latrine, or the latrine is filled. And of course, the rocks are hard, is granite. And therefore, it is not as soft as what you will see maybe on the plains, because it is made up of igneous rocks, hard rocks. And so to dig is not only expensive, but you cannot, of course, dig a large enough hole because of the large amount of hard rocks that you would meet up. And of course, you are digging with fork and utilizing manual labor, movement, kinetic energy. Yeah. So, they have a system called skying. Gazette paper, defecating it, fold it up, and sky it. Skying. In Laventille today, under PNM. Which Laventillian by this time will feel comfortable to hearing that? And which Laventillian will feel comfortable to know that his PNM did that to you? Don't tell me that they do it to themselves, you know. Don't tell me that only do it to only self, you know. Because the responsibility for sanitation, you have a Ministry of Health, and therefore, if these things would pose a health hazard, it is the Ministry of Health, which of course has been there from time immemorial, since the PNM came into government, had a duty to eradicate by an appropriate system, whether it be self-contained within the yard itself, and you have, of course, a sockaway, as they call it, and of course, another facility that is dug in the ground, and you have the tank before, then you have a sockaway so that the material is disintegrates, and then, of course, it is filtered into the sockaway, and of course, it will go underground, but by the time it reaches underground, it is clean water again. The sewer water I'm talking about. That is what happens. It is called filtration. Filtration. That is how you are tempted to drink river water, because of filtration. Dirty water from the coming from the rains that brings down, of course, debris or dust particles from the atmosphere that may have lodged on trees, defecated material from animals, including birds. All of that will mix up, but it will go into the ground and pass through, of course, the matrix of roots that the forest being, of course, saturated with trees, but of course in the ground the roots will trap water, and the deeper the water goes, the more clean it gets, and eventually, of course, it ends up in the river. And that is how you are tempted, because the water looks clean. There may be some, of course, maybe microbes in it that may not be dangerous. But it's the same process that is used when they are preparing water to send to your homes through the pipes. It's called filtration. Yes, same process. Same process. I'm saying all that to say and to emphasize that it was and still is the duty of the PNM to have made certain that the Laventille had on the hills had a network or has a network, whether self-contained or through a common system for the disposing of defecated materials, the waste from human beings, human waste. Let us not waste time. The question is, why has not that happened over the last 6 decades, 60 years, because they just celebrated 67 years and boasting. How come? A community that saved PNM in 1986. Let's continue with the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Lennox.
Yes.
Last call for you.
Go ahead.
Let me come to the point.
Yes.
Yes, GPP
Yes.
is a shitong. Let me show you how.
Go ahead.
When Johnny Citadel was handling the case with the John I. Paul case, he told her that he want to change his statement and introduce a new statement. She said, what? What absurdity is that? He wanted to make a different statement than he made in the first trial, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what they do? They transfer Citadel to Tobago. Today she's a judge and I honor everyone, So this DPP has to be a madman. You give a statement in the original trial, and when they put in Johnny Citadel to handle the case, you want to change that statement? But this is what you must wanted this judge to do. Right? You must check to negotiate.
Yeah, but this DPP got a lot of licks for that kind of conduct, that kind of that kind of performance, performance. Yeah, he has got,
let me call it like it is.
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk to you tomorrow.
Yes, man. And that caused a lot of people, of course, to win their cases. I talk about the people who would have been accused, to win their cases. We'll deal with that in a separate program. But I want to finish this one because it's already, of course, 8:08, and I started exactly at 8:08. Sorry, I mean 10:08, and I started at 8:08. So let me just conclude, because we'll have to examine that video that I'm playing there tomorrow night in details. I said all this to say that why love at this time? But I want to tell you, through various institutions that we ourselves as Laventillians created, I want to say we acted as what government ought to have done. And while we have not been and could not be as successful as if we had the money like the government would have had, and the fact is that it owed the Laventille to, of course, focus and to address those physical and, of course, utility, educational, nutritional, and social comfortableness. Yeah. Being, of course, contributing, in other words, in a quality way to their standard of living and quality of life. And they have neglected that. And in fact, they have encouraged it. And by their policies and programs have devastated the Laventille community and environs. I want to tell you, in spite of all of that, institutions like Love is just the political vehicle, but we have had MLIO that of course trained over 6,000 young people from all over Laventille. We have had, run by Listra Penny, displaced children who was trained all over, looking and hustling and getting exploited for a piece of Kentucky, created an institution to take in these children. No help from government. And no help from government in the case of MLIU as well. 6,000 young people who are all over the place, whether in the police service, army, and of course in various places. And one I'm very proud of, one that is now of course in the Air Force of the United Kingdom. And if we did not make the intervention, people, all now the situation would have been worse than what it is. And imagine, could you imagine if the situation, or could you imagine a worse situation than today? In Laventille and environs? Could you imagine? Well, it would have been worse if we did not make the intervention. The people themselves saw the problem. The people themselves, the residents themselves, created, of course, the institutions in order, of course, to ameliorate. But, of course, they don't have the largest of the state. And what is worse, PNM in particular, they paid no attention. And instead, because these institutions were developed by people such as Gart, such as Bishop Burke, such as Lister Penny, and Horace Raymond, dead now, and of course Michael Morgan, etc. They victimize us. Victimize us. The only people probably, and because they are big, because of the history and the evolution and the ties to the PNM, the only people probably didn't get, even though of course I consider to be less than what they ought to have gotten, is institutions such as the Steel Band, and I'm talking about Desperados. And today, Tokyo is no more, so I could put it on both sides of the coin. They destroyed that too. Let's go to the lines. Pleasant good night, welcome.
Well, Lennox,
hey,
you surprised me there.
Yeah, man. I told you I'm not easy.
I know people that shit. Yeah, easy, but I know people that shitting back up there and do all of that.
That's right.
But what I want to say is, right, all the years I live up there too, right, I never know nobody up there the sex, the niece and thing. One more bad. I don't know nobody up there killing their mother for land and thing, you know. You follow me?
I hear you, I hear you.
And when you talk about that, yeah, because I know it have people all about down there in David that do them thing. What you think?
Well, the answer is very simple. What you killing them for land for that is not yours. Very simple. You have no land. That's a separate issue altogether. Because I can tell you that when we, of course, when the UNC came into government and we saw the situation in 2005, when we stopped Rowley, who was Minister of Housing at the time, when he came up to the George Street Community Center and said they wanted to bulldoze all of East Port of Spain. And he still want to do it. We heard him recently when he said that Queen Street is a latrine, suggesting that laying the case now, that's just how he gave the specious case with, of course, a janitor in the oil industry and say they're making too much money compared to you. Same argument, same pattern of behavior to bulldoze East Port of Spain. But we said containment is the better thing, because if you displace these people in your gentrification or your displacement agenda and you send them all over the place, you're going to have more crime and criminality on your hands that you never would have expected or you would have dreamt for. And of course, so happening today. So happening today. You can trace, of course, the gang warfare and the gangs from East Port of Spain go right up over time to Sandy Grande. And there's a particular pattern that I want you to, that you may not know, that I want to tell you what they followed. They followed URP. URP fomented the various geographic location and occupation along the east-west corridor of the various gangs that were fomented as a consequence. You see, they got smart. And I want to say, of course, it's because the UNC, when it came into government in 1995, under, of course, the Minister of Works then, in their willingness and in their zeal to help and to change the paradigm, made a fundamental mistake. I had to admit that. That doesn't mean to say it can't be remedied now. But they thought that those persons who were not given opportunities, who we in the community will consider to be, of course, gamblers and no goods and so on, and who would be liming on the block whole day and maybe interfering with your girl child when they're passing on the street, etc., but the gambling whole day. They deliberately decided, of course, to change that paradigm and give them opportunities, and they, of course, brought them into the URP as managers and as persons who could give work, etc. And that started, of course, a process that along the East-West corridor today would have morphed into the gang culture, or should I say it parasitically, or put another way, it take advantage, and therefore the gang culture that would have, of course, been able to ferment as well. But we will deal with that in a while. It's a serious business here, Laventille. A pleasant good night.
Yeah, good night.
Good night, my friend.
I realize it is get a little emotional when I talk show and thing, but now to let you know something. You're gonna get personal with these people, and how you could be saying that how Laventille people throwing shit in bag and flinging it over. Partner, you can't be doing them thing, partner.
You want me to carry you right now and show you where? Just off. You know where first and last is?
You had to justify your statement.
Hey, but I'm now telling you, I justify it. I'm now saying that you.
Partner.
Yeah.
You need to justify that.
Well, I'm saying I could carry on right now, at the corner of First and Last and Laventille Road, Ladian Road, and I will show you where that was occurring. I was in the house itself and I saw it myself. And I'm not saying it is happening regularly now, because I'm not saying now, I'm saying that since the latrine eradication program that has been reduced, but I am concerned that it could ever happen at all under the PNM. That's the point I'm making. PNM had a right to take care of that a long time ago. That shouldn't happen.
If your show is about politics, let's stick to politics, partner. You can't be getting on to people's personal life and think you know what it is. I made no
accusation of anyone. No one I call name on. Did I call a name?
Well, that's the same reason and they getting sued.
What for? What? For talking the truth? For talking the truth? The caller is upset that I mentioned that, and that reminds me again of people like these who would condone and know these things are happening and would want us to shut our mouths. I will not, because I am saying that the PNM ought not to have that happening, whether in the last century, the 20th century, or the 21st century. Ought not to. And if the caller was listening, he would realize that I was talking about it in a particular context. And that is to say, from 1986, when Laventille, he argued that Laventille saved the PNM. And the PNM had, better part of 30 years. And we had to come in, the UIC had to come in and initiate the latrine eradication program. We are telling me about it personal. I never mentioned any name. I'm just saying that if that is happening and what's happening in Laventille, and it ought not to be, and I'm blaming the PNM, unless you tell me that there's a PNM and therefore I mustn't talk that, then I know, well, look, you're nonsense. Let them know your nonsense. But don't tell me that I mustn't say that. I mean I mustn't say that. Why you think it had a latrine eradication program? Why you think? Call back caller. I want to challenge you. Why? I never tell you I could carry in a place now. You just go on and believe that somehow you saying that could do somebody something. No, that is a reality. It is not meant to embarrass the people. It is meant to embarrass, if anybody has to be embarrassed, it's the PNM for allowing that to happen in those communities. They tell him about. What you tell him about? You upset because I say that? They're using a term. How I invent the term skying then? It's skying they call it. Maybe you may not be aware. Say that. Or you may not be among those who would have been executing such acts. But don't tell me it doesn't exist and I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. And let me tell you something. In terms of the institutions and that the individuals, MLIO, over 6,000 from all over Laventille. It was the PNM that created the conditions for the closure, or should I say for the drastic reduction in that institution. That of Penny's Children's Home, that of Archbishop Children's Home, Gad Christopher is the latest victim of that by the PNM. Leons and Heinz, they stood there and they allowed the PNM to close down that facility. What that did, it simply caused more people to use as an alternative a persons who glamorize gang activities and criminal behavior, and therefore augmenting the amount of persons that are so inclined, because the alternative has been taken away from them by people like myself who are prepared to remain there and act in the best interests of the community. It's not waste time. We have to tell it as it is. And let me tell all this stuff there. I'll even a little bit about 4 things now. In the context of Laventille West, you will be told that the Family Day and the interphase competition, sports, Queen Show, it's the community itself created that. I was the one that designed the project, wrote it up, and wrote the letter to Manning, who then agreed to provide a challenge trophy. A trophy that he sponsored, that will be there forever once they have the competition going on. I ain't finished yet. In the center of that particular constituency, around, of course, the Our Lady of Fatima, there's a 6 or 7 or 8 acre piece of land called the Ogaro lands. Again, it was I they came to, and we started to write, and we wrote, because the families abandoned the land, but looking for compensation because the government took it over and put on duplex just south of the Our Lady of Fatima. Fella, you're talking to people who know. I ain't guessing. Duplex, I think it's some 7 of them. Never pay the people a cent. The government agency take it over. So what I had to do, they came to me, Mr. Smith, oh God, since the government take we land. They give us a house in Mova for the because they take the land to for the stone or to quarry the granite that was there at the time to build, including, of course, I don't think the Dry River was a beneficiary of that, but some of the other infrastructure, take Beetham, and I think, of course, the further afield. But the fact of the matter is that their lands were taken away from them, not a cent. And when, of course, we made the intervention and said, like, the family would like to get compensated under the UNC at least, and Jerlin John could, of course, attest to that. Because when Manning had wrote to the AGC, telling AGC to see about the Ogaro family and, of course, their lands and the compensation thereof, because there's something very sinister that took place there. That family should have been rich. But Manning came, and Manning went out of office, and the UNC came in. And Jerlin John was the manager of AGC at the time, and we approached her with it. They launched an investigation. They realized that the claim of the Ogaros was real, was legitimate, was solid, based on the report. Well, they even financed, they paid to do a survey of the part that they are claiming. The AGC did that. So that's to tell you how culpable they accepted their responsibility. But they offered $1 million, and the family said no for all that land. I think it was about 4 acres at the time. They were talking about 4 of the 8 acres, I believe it was. And they said no. And then I had to write to them and say the family is prepared to take $19 million for the deprivation and all of the inconveniences. People had to go elsewhere and live. People had to go away, some of whom are in the United States. About 11 of them, I think it's about 10 of them now, because 2 or 3 of them might have died. Since we are pursuing this, since Manning time. And the position is now that they have planned, of course, to go to court, and that will take another process, because under the PNM, they were prepared, of course, to say that they weren't in office, the UNC was in office, they know nothing about that, and that therefore we have to go the whole thing all over again. PNM. These people should be rich people from Laventille, making their contribution back to Laventille. But no, and you know what is more despicable about that whole process? The Ogaro lands. I am bringing it to you because it will be a hot potato on the campaign trail as we of course seek to do the right thing for ourselves, to place, of course, love, Laventille Outreach for Vertical Enrichment, the institutions that will, of course, take us to where we ought to be, because PNM failed us. And you know what transpired? The rest of the land, the remaining 4 acres was overrun by squatters. Why? Because they believe that the land there was government land, because AGC had taken, of course, the land and built those duplexes, just, of course, as I said, south of the Our Lady of Fatima, or just below, of course, that TCT tower that you see there. Go and check. Tell me I know what I'm talking about. A man like me, you say I don't know what I'm talking about. And when I give you proof, you run. You run and say, big man, what? No. Yes. So these people have not yet been paid. One of them died recently, active participant. they decide, of course, to go to court again under this government. I say that when the UNC gets into government, in fact, if I have any say at all, and I'm part, of course, of the coalition of interest, that matter must be in the manifesto of the UNC. I will ensure. No, we must have some millionaires as well coming out of Laventille, and I'm sure that because of their connection to Laventille, they will invest back into Laventille rather than, of course, go in. Let us not waste time. And that is that. But let us go to the northern extreme of the constituency of Laventille West. I'm talking now about, of course, Chinatown. I'm talking about, of course, La Saltruas and environment. I'm talking about, of course, Chinapoo. Don't waste time. I don't waste time. Well, when we saw the problem with, of course, that La Saltruas matter, the two towers or the two buildings collapsing, and we told them beforehand, because I had a recycling setup business on the Lady Young Road opposite the construction site. Today it is converted into a church. They used to tell you, drop them by the warehouse, because we had a recycling project going on. I will talk about the economic opportunities sometime later. But I want to tell you that when we look south of that collapse, two towers of buildings, high-rise, you wouldn't want to go there. There were big cracks open in people's homes, in people's houses, behind there, about 10 or 12 houses. But we told the agency that that land is not good land, it is moving, and therefore you shouldn't build those heavy structures there. But they didn't listen and declare, of course, the vegetation that would, of course, keep the soil together, and the soil started to move. And as it moved, of course, and moved the people's home at the same time at the south of that. So when you go into Chinapoo proper and you go up and at the back of Las Alturas, you will see what you're seeing today in Gaza. Gaza Strip, you're seeing, man. You're telling me about. And the government never, in spite of my beseechment, never paid attention. But I ain't finished yet. If you go northwest, if you want to call it that, of the constituency of Laventille West, Gonzales, you will see a facility called MLI. They call it Making Life Important, but the original name is Mova Laventille Initiative. Mova Laventille Initiative. Well, that came as a consequence of Martin Joseph, who under Manning having instructed him to look at a 1,000-page document on the whole question of Laventille and its development by the people, of the people, and for the people, and created. And all of that came not just in the Laventille context, you know, but of course I had to go to the United States, and I thank, of course, Dr. Gatti James and others in New York who of course assisted me, and we then developed what is called the empowerment zone concept. Empowerment zone concept for Laventille. That is what you're seeing at the back there. We will deal with it in due course. We'll deal with it in due course, man. Understand that. Government by the people, of the people, and for the people. But in this case, of course, it is a community advancement by the people, of the people, and for the people, because the government of the PNM failed us. That is why we did what we had to do, because we are patriotic to our community. And we saw what was possible. And so that MLI initiative, Mova Laventille initiative, was a direct response to crime and criminality, and I will just want to share with you a few elements of that project. That project was designed to find and locate community leaders in every single nook and cranny in Laventille. 1, 2, they were to be given the responsibility to make timely intervention, particularly with young people who may gravitate to a life of crime. And of course, we solicited and enlisted the role of the Baptist community, the Baptist churches, because they are in every nook and cranny. Where I come from in Passage Street alone, there's something like seven Baptist churches within, of course, a radius in different directions of about a kilometer or so. So we know that these churches can play a intervention role, and of course timely and real-time intervention by, of course, calling the young man when he's identified and saying, listen, what you want to be a mechanic, you want to be a doctor, you want to be whatever it is, they should be able to make the intervention instead of leaving him to his whim and fancy, and next thing, of course, the negative elements get hold of him or her. That is what we were talking about, man. That is what we were talking about. And still talking about it. And mind you, that wasn't all. That wasn't all. When, of course, we recognize that these leaders' job is it to, of course, not only deal with the timely and real-time intervention and capture these young people before they gravitate to the negative elements, because there's a role for the negative elements. We have to accept that, but I'll deal with that last. So the role of these leaders is to have access to the Ministry of Community Development, the Ministry of Housing, the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs, the Ministry of Finance, and of course, those institutions that provide loans to businessmen, because all of them wouldn't want to have a wage employment. They may want to do businesses, and therefore all of these community leaders would have, of course, have access to these various institutions, so that, of course, they pay attention quickly in order, of course, to give them what they have to get in order, of course, for them not to gravitate to a life of crime. That is sustainable development we are talking about, man. Understand that. There are those who are going to vex because the truth does offend, and of course they know it's truth, and they will not, of course, go and lie down comfortable tonight because they know that the UNC come in with that. If I have to be a part, UNC has to come with it. I will tell you some more as to how certain elements, why the UNC was around, trying to, of course, dispossess us from developing our own people and our own community. We'll deal with that. There is always, of course, pros and cons. There is always anti and pro. But for the time being, we'll settle with the positive. So that initiative, MLI, Mobile Laventille initiative, was designed for that, and you'll see it right now on a sign, I wouldn't say a poster, but on a signage outside the police post or opposite the community center in Gonzales right now. If you go there right now, you will see it as part of it. You would know now for the first time what that was all about. But I'll tell you why it has not functioned. Of course, the PNM had a lot to do with it, but there are other elements that cause it not to function. And let us go to the western side of that constituency now, at the edge, where, of course, we were in total support of giving the people in those buildings, apartments, the buildings, once they could verify that they are the legitimate tenants and signature associated therewith, for $100. Because of the time that they spend there, generations past, the young men, young girls, and several generations of different ages pass through there. So therefore, we were able, of course, to get a deal that says that $100 for the apartments. But you're going to see what will be the case when the UNC takes over in 2025, after the 2025 elections. You'll see much more than that. I assure you. What was the reason for that? It was very simple. We told the residents, listen, if we are able, or that can be, of course, the beginning of dealing with the crime and criminality and our young people picking up guns and killing people. If only you, the original signatories and owners now of these of these apartments, you could tell your son and your daughter, listen, I'm not leaving anything for you if you behave yourself. That is one. It sounds simple but significant, because a far cry from people who living in these apartments generation after generation, born and die, and can't own it. But if you're owning it, you could leave it for somebody, and therefore you could use it as leverage to tell the young man, behave yourself now, otherwise I'll leave it, I'll cut you out of my will, because you own something. But more than that, these apartments could now be used as collateral. You could go to the bank, because of course the UNC is stupid. They will of course augment the value, and of course by persuasion the government just had to talk. Rowley just had to talk. Rowley as Prime Minister just had to talk and say the banks are very unfair, etc. And you'll see how they will adjust. So that's all the UNC had to do. And don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about as far as Rowley is concerned, because there are examples to show. When COVID was the issue and people couldn't open their businesses, but they own the bank mortgage, whether it be mortgage or hire purchase, a stove, a fridge. And of course, the argument was that people are not working and therefore they can't pay the mortgage. Rowley and them never lift a hand to say, listen, put a moratorium. Do not take anything from these people because they simply inhabit it. We put a shutdown on the country. You know why I'm talking this way? It's because Motley in Barbados, man, she launched a scathing attack on the financial institutions in that country, banks, credit unions, etc., saying all they're wicked and all they, in those circumstances, everybody had to take a hit. And so said, so happened. Not Rowley and them. They tell us instead the rich must get richer, and whatever crumbs fall off the table must be for us. You understand what is happening here? My point is that it is the PNM that had the responsibility to ameliorate and to improve our circumstance in exchange for the level of loyalty. That is what I'm talking about. It had nothing to do with skying of filth or lack of latrines, etc. No, it is the PNM had no right to have that happening in these communities. That's the point I am making. I am not looking for no sympathy, and I dare anybody who would like to look for sympathy by, of course, misrepresenting what I'm saying. You can't tell me it don't happen, and you can't tell me that I mustn't say that. Why I mustn't say it when it is a reality? And I have to tell, of course, those who can make an intervention in order, of course, to bring the appropriate adjustments and the facilitation to improve the quality of life and standard of living. I want to see nice houses on the hill. I want to see nice roads on the hill. I want to see nice tracks and, of course, well-lighted area. And I want to see, of course, a reduction in the crime and criminality. I want to see doctors walking on Laventille Road. I want to see lawyers walking on Laventille Road. I want to see a plethora of course, teachers, nurses, etc., walking, pilots and so on, walking Laventille Road. That is what I want to see. Why you think I'm talking so? Why I think I'm talking so? And I want to see, of course, those who gravitate to a life of crime. Let's deal with them now. They are part of the community. You can't leave them out. So therefore, those very persons who are the community leaders must now have a special focus on these persons who are either have some kind of criminal record, or they are encouraging, of course, young people to gravitate to a life of crime. We must be able, because it is all about being able to eat, being able to sleep, meaning that have a home. Yes, indeed. Have a home. You want to wear nice clothes like everybody else. Well, of course, you have to focus on them and not be harsh on them in terms of a skill, but understand their situation and be able to. Each one will have a different situation, and therefore you address each one as it is, as you expand their optimism and their prospects for improving themselves and putting down the blasted gun. Putting down the gun. That's what this is all about. And when you have, of course, doctors walking Laventille Road, and when you have, of course, teachers walking Laventille Road, and when you have, of course, lawyers as regular as you would see them in Woodbrook and St. James and St. Anne's, walking all over, and businessmen all over, then you know progress is being made. And guess what? In such circumstances, nobody will be unemployed, including, of course, those who have a propensity to gravitate to a life. In fact, they wouldn't have that to study, because those persons who I referred to earlier, with respect, of course, to those buildings, not only could they go to the bank and get a loan to probably buy another building, do a business, send somebody to school, and all around now, Carnival time, you could clear up a room, and all of them together could, of course, advertise in the United States and Europe and so on, and earn US money for the short period of Carnival, because from the building, they walk straight into the Carnival every year. That is the vision we are talking about, man. That is the vision. That is what we are looking at as a Laventille, a new Laventille, by Laventillians, for Laventillians. That is what we are talking about. Understand that. Nobody can tell me that they don't want that for Laventille. Anytime you say that, you're wicked, you're evil, and you are, of course, peddling the nonsense that is the PNM that had a duty and responsibility to solve this problem decades ago, and therefore 39 seats must go towards the UNC, and it includes, of course, Laventille giving itself the opportunity to what? To be part of history. Because I could tell you, you will get what I just mentioned there. That is possible. You will get it. You will get it. Beginning of the transformation. This program is not called East-West, or put another way, corridor transformation for joke. These things happen. They're real. And therefore, I'm saying to you, be on board. Forget the petty nuances. I try to put kinks. To try to do what? To ingratiate somebody. But let me tell you something. This is not the first time I talk about the caller because he sounds like a Laventillian. Let me tell you something. We invited Maurice Marshall, and everybody would know Maurice Marshall in Laventille, and of course across the country, to a graduation of MLIO. You'll see pictures of it and so on and so on. I don't talk by just guess. And incidentally, the Laventille Technology and Continuing Education Center is Lennox Smith's idea, not Hines. Yeah, I say, go and tell Hines that, and see if he hesitate to tell you, yes, it's true. That is the Laventille Continuing Education Center and Technological Center is Lennox Smith's idea. It came to me after, of course, that was the rum bun. They talk about the rum bun that was burnt. And I saw it as an extension of MLIO, the trade school that I invented. Well, Heinz can't think that far. All they must know that by now. Maybe as Rowley and they will project to you, government by Mama Guy. This is not Mamagism. And then I went, of course, to the Minister of Tertiary Education at the time. The UNC was in government at the time, Pandey. And of course, Ganga Singh was the Minister of Tertiary Education. And I told him, and then, of course, he made me the advisor to NESC. And we began, of course, to design the program. I'm sorry I didn't take a blasted copy of that, because I would have been able to show you what was planned. And I did not get a copy because I didn't have a flash drive on me at the time, and I lost the opportunity. And of course, NESC is situated in near Point Lisa's there, so I didn't have transport at the time, so I lost that opportunity. Because I like to prove what I say, because I've proven every damn thing I say here now. Everything I say, ask me anything. I think I'm talking my guess. So all the plans were there. And when the government changed, and of course, Heinz became, of course, I think the representative for Laventille East Morvan. And when I went, of course, to the succeeding Minister of Tertiary Education Bureau, the representative then for Labre, I said, Mr. Bureau, listen, we have this plan called, what we were calling it, the Inner City Training Facility, to do all of these things. And I said, listen, I have the whole thing here right now. Mr. Manning asked for a program for Laventille, and of course, I'm giving him that. Well, of course, I didn't want to hear anything more, and I said, okay, if they have it on their front burner, fine. And I done with that. Bram, I see Heinz walking all over the place, calling meeting and so on. Well, I know I am not to go to any meetings, because Laventille will take longer to get that center if I only make an intervention and say, that is my idea. So I remained silent. I attended meetings and I remained silent. Very innocuous, knowing full well my role. And knowing full well too, have faith in God that this day will also come. This day will come. It has come. And so, they went along. And all they did, they changed the name. And they did a very, what I consider to be, not just injustice, but a very stupid thing in terms of the operationalization of that facility. They left out a very important structure in the management of it. I love, as is in the case of MLIO, to develop what I call a community advisory committee. Community advisory committee, very important for these communities, because no such community could say that they have all the resources, human and technical, in order, of course, to offload or to execute a project like that, and therefore you need expertise. So the community advisory committee is supposed to be populated with experts. Yes, architects, lawyers, members of the community that have influence, etc. Yeah. So you have that there separate. So that if a young man or a young lady play the fool in the center, you are able, of course, to call on that advisory committee to send somebody home, track that young man or woman, and make sure that they do what they're required to do, or that the parents are informed, and that the community put pressure on them to come into the facility and behave themselves in a way so that they could benefit and then move on to the next stage in their own development for their family, their community, and their nation. That is what that is all about. But they didn't put that there, so guess what? About 2 or 3 times the facility closed down under the PNM operation. Why? Because they killed a couple fellas in front of the building. Yeah, people were murdered in front of the building, so they closed it down once or twice. And I say, look at that. All they don't know, Rowley and them don't know anything. You think if I was running that, it would have any murder in front of there? No, because the community activities that committee would have been aware, because it is comprised of members of the community from all over, because it is to satisfy all of them, as Emilio was when it was on Fernandez compound. Yeah, I remember very distinctly a fellow from St. Babs. We give him a letter to take to his mother, big and strong, 16 or 17 years, big and strong. And when we give him the letter, the teacher gave him the letter to take home, he said, if I cry this home, my mother would just tear up this. Tear it up. But that was a message to us. But we know what we would do. Because every Saturday, as God sent, every single teacher of the facility had to visit one or two, or as much as they can, every single student that, especially if they're given problems, they had to go home on a Saturday. Go home. So he didn't know that. That's why when we are registering them, we take these fine notes so we know who to go to, where to go to, etc. If you look at the form, you will see that. If you had a look at the form. And let me tell you something. When we went home in St. Babs, yeah, and as we bounced on the pavement outside the home, we see him running through, or show us jumping through a window. But we saw our senior citizen in the gallery. So we went down and we said, "Man, well, we are from MLIO. We come here to find out about, of course, this young man." We gave him, of course, a document to take home, to bring back to school. They now tell me it's after 11 o'clock. But let me just finish, because I could talk about this until morning. So, when we interacted with the senior citizen that we met there, they say, we asked her where he is. She said he inside. But we just saw him climbing through a window. So when she called for him, I said, all right, well, we understand. And then we told her what we were there for, etc., etc. Eventually, he get to find out that we were there. After that day, he never made a mistake again by, of course, giving us that kind of hug. But what we learned was important. What we learned was that his real parents were abroad in the United States. So he was one of those barrel children. Yeah. And his grandmother was left there, poor lady. She doesn't have the physical ability to come down to the school, etc. So we know that was impossible. That's why he was talking how he was talking. But when you see we were prepared to come up in the home, and of course monitor his tail, you know what? He started to walk on the street and he graduated. He now has his own business. And many of them have their own businesses now, or they're in the police service or the army, as the case may be. And as I said, one of them ended up, of course, in the Air Force of the United Kingdom. I will give you that story on the next occasion. So people, don't let your head be bothered, Laventillians. This is not hairy-fairy talk. This is to show demonstration, demonstrability, and ability to deliver. And if when you do the right thing on this occasion, be part of the 39, I assure you, the transformation of which I speak, which is already documented in more ways than one. You can only have yourselves to congratulate. And you have the assurance that you will not be summarily taken off the hill. Don't feel that when Rowley said, not Rowley, but Manning said, they go buy out John was joke talk, you know. The problem is, for the rest of the society, is that when these people who know and have attachment to the Port of Spain, and they go into these communities, they are going to do the same thing that they are accustomed doing there. So therefore, the rest of the country have to say, Do not, Rowley, touch these people, but improve their conditions, improve their housing, improve their roads, improve their tracks, improve employment opportunities, reduce poverty, and they will respond as contributing members of the society. But if you displace them without generating the attitudinal change that is required for a stable Trinidad and Tobago, then you are fomenting further destabilization of Trinidad and Tobago, and the failed state which we are attempting to avoid is inevitable. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. I'll see you, of course, tomorrow morning on the ground report, Andy, Mikey, and myself, when we will continue with these and other matters. I trust that you got a mouthful, and I beseech and beg that, of course, you share, even at this late moment, because the information contained is cause for optimism, while, of course, getting a bird's eye view of the realities that is the Laventille and environs at this time, and the manifold and multiple neglect of the PNM, who could have done better, and the fact that the PNM owes Laventille, and we will exact our pound of flesh at the appropriate time. Thank God for the UNC. Thank God for Kamala. Thank God for giving Laventille a new lease on life and prospect. Because once the UNC wins, all of us wins. Yes, indeed. All of us wins. And we must, of course, grow conscious of that fact. Grow conscious of that fact.
Natural beauty. Yeah. No, I never been someone shy until I seen your eyes. Still I had to try. Yeah. Oh yes. Let me get my words right and then approach you. Woman, I'll treat you like a man is supposed to. You'll never have to cry. No. I know everyone can relate to when they find a special someone. And she's royal, yeah, so royal. And I want her in my life.
No word of a lie. Oh. Did you ever say thank you for all the things that I've shown you? No, still I stood by you. Has it occurred to you lately how I'm feeling, my baby? No, still I stand by you. Yet there is one thing I need you to know about the small matter what you neglect to show. Show me that you love me. Show me that you care, so we can be blessed now, minus the stress now. Did I render you lonely? Was I your one and only? No, still I stood by you. Did you give me more than I bargained? Drain the love out of my fountain. Still I stand by you. Yes, there is one thing I need you to know about about the small matter what you neglect to show. Show me that you love me, yeah, 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 yeah. Show me that you care, so we can be blessed now, minus the stress now. Yeah. No word of a lie. Oh. Me want the agony and ecstasy in a one. Turn the wheels of love in a forward motion. The agony plus devotion. No render my emotion in a garbage pan. The agony and ecstasy in a one. Turn the wheels of love in a forward motion. The agony plus devotion.